In prison, I develop mechas to break out. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 426, No Martial Ethics. Ship number 1 retreated into the atmosphere and was rapidly restarting its energy shield. On the bridge, Chen Finkyo stared intently at the battlefield situation simulated by the holographic projection. Under the superior firepower, the Earth side was completely in an advantageous position. The energy shields of the enemy warships were in a state of emergency, and they had to evacuate by space jump. Tang Ling sighed and said, "It seems that it is impossible to completely destroy a warship. The enemy does not give us this opportunity at all. It is normal to think about it. Aliens are also afraid of death. They can obviously escape by space jump. Why do they have to desperately die?" Chen Finkyo frowned and thought about feasible methods. At first, Chen Finkyo wanted other warships to cover the evacuation of the damaged warships. But what if there was only one warship left? There would be no one to cover it. But then he thought again. If the enemy only had one warship left, he could leave a warship with the most sufficient energy shield in advance, and then directly withstand the attack, and start space jump to escape. Now the number of enemy warships is getting smaller and smaller, and the gaps in defense are getting bigger and bigger, but the enemy is obviously not stupid, and they have left enough time for space jump. Even seeing that the situation was hopeless, the enemy could just activate space jumps and escape with the remaining 4 warships. Is there really no way to destroy even one enemy warship? Chen Finkyo slapped the railing in frustration. Tang Ling nodded and said, "It seems to be like this now. Energy shields are a double-edged sword. It's good, but if both sides have it, then the battle will be too tiring. It's like two people have invincibility, and they beat each other up, but nothing happens. Moreover, when they see that the invincibility time is about to expire, they run away in advance. If they can catch up, it's fine, but they are driving and running away, and you can't catch up with them on foot. If we have powerful weapons, or more weapons, we can break the enemy's energy shield in one go," Tang Ling said. Chen Finkyo didn't say anything, staring at the battlefield projection. Suddenly, his eyes lit up and he said, "Since we can't destroy the enemy warships, we can attack the carrier-based aircraft. The loss of thousands of carrier-based aircraft is probably not a small loss. With the firepower of the warship, attacking the carrier-based aircraft is like playing." Yes. Tang Ling's eyes also lit up. There was no need to think about destroying a warship, but these aliens came from afar, so they couldn't leave something behind. 1,000 carrier-based aircraft and 1,000 pilots should also make the aliens feel painful. Let's do it. Contact the command center and explain our ideas, Chen Finkyo said immediately. Soon, Wang Mazhao received Chen Finkyo's idea. After a little thought, he immediately agreed with Chen Finkyo's idea. In space, Lin Zhao, who evacuated the battlefield and restarted the energy shield, was about to rush into the battlefield with Jinzi and kill a lot of people when he suddenly received an order. "Everyone evacuate to Earth." "What's going on? Why are you evacuating?" Jinzi said in the communication channel with some confusion. Lin Zhao was also puzzled, but still said, "No matter why, an order is an order. Retreat." Jinzi didn't say anything more and evacuated directly to the Earth. In an instant, in the vast space between the Earth and the Moon, a large number of carrier-based aircraft that were fighting in a crisscross pattern suddenly turned and quickly fled to the Earth. The actions were consistent, so that the remaining more than 400 alien carrier-based aircraft did not react, and all the carrier-based aircraft stopped in a daze. Did they win? It didn't seem like it. On the Earth side, there were at least 1,700 carrier-based aircraft left, which was 4 times their number. There was no reason to retreat at all. If they had to retreat, they should retreat. In just a few seconds, all the carrier-based aircraft had evacuated to the back of several warships in space that were bombarding each other. At this moment, the turrets of the 4 Pangu-class warships that were bombarding the enemy warships suddenly turned. At the same time, the laser cannon bases on the Earth and the Moon also turned their guns and aimed at these enemy carrier-based aircraft in space. In an instant, a full 4,000 laser beams penetrated the space and submerged these carrier-based aircraft. The carrier-based aircraft has an energy shield, but the strength of its energy shield is like paper under the laser weapons of the warship. In addition, with a saturation attack of 4,000 laser beams, it is almost like 10 weapon systems attacking one carrier-based aircraft, just like using anti-aircraft guns to hit mosquitoes. After one round of attack, they were afraid that there would be fish that slipped through the net, so they launched another round of attack. But in fact, after the first round of attack, the remaining more than 400 carrier-based aircraft had been scrapped. In space, it was quiet in an instant. The enemy warships had a momentary delay in attacking, as if they didn't react. It was agreed that the generals would fight the generals, and the soldiers would fight the soldiers. Why did you suddenly attack the carrier-based aircraft? Do you still have martial ethics? When the alien warships wanted to retaliate against the Earth's carrier-based aircraft, they found that all the carrier-based aircraft on the Earth side had already evacuated to the rear of the warships in advance. What a fart. The next moment, a hail of space jumps suddenly appeared around the 4 enemy ships. Obviously, these 4 enemy ships were preparing to escape together. Attack. Attack quickly. At the same time, the captains of all the warships gave the order to attack. A large number of laser beams bombarded the energy shields of the 4 warships. But it was useless. The 4 warships had sufficient energy shields and calmly started the space jump to escape. In space, calm was restored again. It seemed that nothing had happened, but the large number of carrier-based aircraft wreckage showed how tragic a real battle had happened here. In the command center, the suppressed and tense atmosphere seemed to be released in an instant, and all the staff cheered. But Zhou Yang, Wang Mazhao and other senior commanders could not laugh. The other party appeared in a swagger and attacked. Although some carrier-based aircraft were lost, they still left in a swagger. It's like a gangster who kicked the door in, cursed at you, and left, but you can't do anything. Shame. Wang Mazhao's expression was gloomy and terrible. Not a single warship was destroyed. Everyone looked ugly. Zhou Yang also sighed to the sky. The gap in technology seemed incomparably huge at this moment. After a while, everyone calmed down. Anyway, we have repelled the enemy and protected the Earth. If it were a few months ago, we didn't even have warships. Then when the enemy appeared, I'm afraid the Earth would have fallen. So from this perspective, we have won. Li Xianshu said, trying to ease the atmosphere. Wang Mazhao and others nodded slowly. Zhou Yang smiled and said, well, to be honest, I think these aliens are quite chivalrous. You see, we used warships to sneak attack their carrier-based aircraft, but they didn't use warships and directly attacked our Earth. From this perspective, the aliens are still relatively martial. Chapter 427 The End of the War. Everyone wanted to laugh, but they couldn't. Zhou Yang couldn't laugh either. He was not kidding. If these aliens really didn't follow the moral principles of war and just took on the attacks of the Earth's warships and then attacked the Earth crazily, 9 warships, 2,000 laser cannons, and a barrage of bombardment would definitely cause a lot of damage to the Earth. Li Xianshu's expression was a little pale, and he said, Mr. Zhao, do you think it's possible to install an energy shield for the Earth? You're a little whimsical. Zhou Yang laughed. How big is the entire Earth? How big a device, and how much energy would be needed to build such a large energy shield? It's simply unrealistic. But after a pause, Zhou Yang said, but your idea reminds me that we should install energy shields on some major cities on Earth to prevent aliens from bombing our Earth and causing huge losses. With the current energy shield technology, if it is land-based and then extended in a fixed direction, it can reduce energy consumption. Zhou Yang estimated that it should be possible to support a range of 10,000 meters. In major cities, such as Beijing, it is still very useful to build some energy shields to resist a wave of attacks at critical moments. Forget it. Zhou Yang thought about it and shook his head, saying, the cost is too high. Take Beijing for example, such a large super city, the area reaches tens of thousands of square kilometers. With such a large area, 10,000 energy shields must be deployed to protect the entire city. The cost is too high. Li Xianshu frowned and said, then set it up in key areas. For example, government agencies. If aliens come to attack, they can save their lives at critical moments. Zhou Yang nodded and said, this should be possible. It is not that the lives of leaders are more valuable and the lives of ordinary people are not valuable, but at critical moments, leaders can play a greater role when they are alive. At that time, leaders are no longer just one person, but represent the entire Earth civilization. Zhou Yang turned around and looked at the holographic projection again. It can be seen that after the 9 warships jumped away in space, they did not leave the solar system, but stayed near Pluto, and there was no further action for the time being. These guys are still not leaving. They have calculated that we don't have the technology to jump through space. They are too arrogant. Wang Mazhao said angrily. A staff officer next to him said, how about we send warships directly over there? Pluto is 6 billion kilometers away. With the Pangu class warship's top speed of 60,000 kilometers per second, it can arrive in 28 hours. But as soon as he finished speaking, he was denied by another staff officer. No, we have a limited number of warships, only 6, and we have to defend the Earth. If we run over there, without the support of the laser cannon base on the Earth and the Moon, our firepower will be insufficient. And if we run over there like this, what should we do if the other party jumps over through space? Leaving a few ships for defense, it is meaningless to go with 1 or 2. Without cover and backup, the energy shield will be destroyed, and we can't run away. Zhou Yang looked at the 9 targets and fell into deep thought. According to normal thinking, after being attacked by the Earth, this fleet should have realized that it is impossible to capture the Earth with their strength. So now they have only one choice. To contact the Decidin civilization and request more warships for support. Zhou Yang didn't know what kind of communication method the Decidin civilization used, whether it had the main source magnetic gravitational field communication technology and could communicate conveniently in the universe. But from the intelligence obtained before, the Earth is 40 light years away from the Oma civilization, and the Decidin civilization is 35 light years away from the Oma civilization. The Decidin civilization is definitely not between the Oma civilization and the Earth. In that case, the Earth is only 5 light years away from the Decidin civilization, which is incredibly close. So Zhou Yang speculated that the Decidin civilization is at least 60 or 70 light years away from the Earth. At such a long distance, if electromagnetic waves are used for communication, it will take 70 years, so it is definitely not such a communication method. But at such a long distance, it will take a few days or even a few hours of communication time. After the communication is completed, and the strategy is confirmed, the Decidin civilization will have to hold a meeting to discuss whether to fight the Earth to the end. After the meeting, it will decide to dispatch warships. It will probably take some time for the warships to come again. After this whole set of processes, Zhou Yang felt that 3 days was fast in external time. Then on Earth in the gravity zone, it would probably take several months or even a year. And this time is precious time. Keep an eye on them. The 6 warships should not rest yet, but be on alert in the synchronous orbit. Zhou Yang said. After that, Zhou Yang said, I have something else to do, so I'll leave first. Zhou Yang has already obtained the information on the super weapon. The random task has been recognized by the system as completed. Zhou Yang has also received the technical information on the super weapon, the Stellar Star Destroyer. I'll take you back. Li Xianshu and others hurriedly caught up. When returning, Zhou Yang did not drive the Zuanian, but took a helicopter. After getting on the plane, Zhou Yang asked Li Xiaoyu to send a message to all researchers, asking all researchers who were on holiday for the new year to return to the institute immediately. Taking a break, Zhou Yang also video called Chen Royan and asked about the situation there. They all withdrew to a safe underground refuge base. In addition, the entire war did not last too long, so there was nothing going on there. I'll arrange someone to take you home. I won't go back. I may not be able to go back for a while. Take good care of Tang Tang, Zhou Yang said. On the other side of the video, Chen Royan nodded gently and said only 3 words, rest assured. Who had a new village? Chen Qiaoyang was bored and swiping his phone, but there was still no signal. He wanted to contact his family, but he couldn't. The garage was crowded with people, and some people's emotions had already exploded. But the explosion was fast and the calm was fast. 2 robots went up and pressed, no matter who you are, they just pressed you down. A policeman also rushed to the scene, holding a loudspeaker and announcing, "At special moments and critical moments, any action of the country has the purpose of the country. What we can do is to cooperate. Anyone who makes trouble again will be severely punished. In troubled times, heavy punishments are used. In this case, it is absolutely impossible without the country's violent organs." The riots were quelled, and everyone reluctantly accepted the fact that they were under house arrest. The key is that there is no internet. Chen Qiuyang didn't really care about being under house arrest. The country was helping them save their lives. The problem was that there was no internet, which made people so bored. In the end, Chen Qiuyang could only run to watch the robot build a toilet. These robots were also very skillful, and soon, a toilet took shape. Then several robots came running over carrying large blue buckets. "Damn, there's not even a squat toilet?" Chen Qiuyang couldn't help but complain. Chapter 428 Alarm cleared. Just as Chen Qiuyang finished complaining, a robot carrying a bucket suddenly put down the bucket, came to the newly built wall, and kicked it. The cement hadn't dried yet, but it knocked down most of it. Chen Qiuyang was stunned and shouted, "Damn it, look, this robot is angry," and kicked over the newly built toilet. It's true. Is it because he's working too much and got angry? Can robots get angry too? Why not? One day I had diarrhea and pooped my pants, and I asked the robot to wash them for me by hand, but it refused. Damn it, you're awesome, but are you sure it's not because the robot is afraid of water ingress and short circuits? People around were talking about it. At this time, other robots that were building the wall also came forward and started kicking the wall. The newly built toilet was demolished in a few seconds, and then all the robots came forward and started cleaning the bricks. When everyone was wondering, the robots blocking the wall at the garage entrance suddenly separated and made way. Then a robot shouted loudly, "The alarm has been lifted. Please evacuate in an orderly manner and return home. For further instructions, please pay attention to the latest official announcement. Please do not believe any rumors. Everything is subject to the official announcement. Spreading rumors will be punished with felony." After shouting once, it continued to shout. Chen Qiuyang was stunned and muttered, "What's the matter? The alarm was just sounded. Why is it lifted again?" That's right, before the battle was so big, they drove us together like sheep, and nothing happened, and they let us out again. Damn, are they taking us for a walk? Haha, taking people for a walk, and being fucking taken for a walk by a robot. No, I must tear down my dabe when I get back. Everyone in the garage was talking, and many people were complaining. Chen Qiuyang was also feeling aggrieved. At this time, Chen Qiuang's dabe came to Chen Qiuyang from nowhere and said, "Master, let's go home. You big-headed ghost." Chen Qiuang slapped him and cursed, "Are you the master, or am I the master? It feels good to carry me, right? I'll let you carry me enough when we go home." Dabe showed a frightened expression and said, "Master, Xiao Bei didn't mean it. Everything is for your safety. Forget it." Chen Qiuang couldn't complain. He spent a lot of money to buy it. What can he do? He couldn't bear to smash it. Besides, who would cook and clean the house for him if he smashed it? At this time, the people in the garage also began to walk out of the garage one after another. "Let's go," Chen Qiuang said depressedly, and took Dabe home. Then he found that his mobile phone also had network. Chen Qiuang quickly sent a message to his family to report that he was safe, and then opened the website to search for what had just happened. Level 1 alarm, and it was so serious that the background took over all the robots and forced everyone to enter the civil defense facilities. It was obvious that aliens had come, but it was less than an hour, a typical case of loud thunder but little rain. Chen Qiuang looked up, the weather was clear, and he saw nothing. On the internet, people were talking about this matter everywhere. The aliens are coming. I don't feel the end of the world, but I lost the internet just now, and I feel a bit like the end of the world. The aliens are very strong, and I can't resist them, so please do what you should do next time the aliens come. Don't cut off my internet. Let me die in happiness. That's right, I was fighting the boss, and suddenly I was kicked offline. Who will compensate me for my losses? There was a lot of complaints on the internet, especially focusing on the global internet disconnection. Zhou Yang was also a little depressed. His golden soul was almost knocked down, and it was a waste of time. But more people were still discussing this war. There was a lot of thunder but little rain. I thought the war would last for a long time. Our robots brought over the food and drinks, but before they could start distributing them, they moved them all away again. Yeah, I didn't hear any artillery fire. Is there a war? Maybe the aliens just came to take a look, but when they saw that the earth was so broken and such a small place was useless, they left again. It was a false alarm. Many people who were just watching the war didn't understand the concept of space warfare, and they didn't have any first-hand intelligence. They were just guessing. At this time, some slightly more professional people stood up and began to popularize knowledge. First of all, it's normal that we can't see the battle and hear the gunfire. First of all, the war must be fought in space, at least outside the atmosphere, and it should be fought on the daytime side of the Earth. Those people at night didn't see the war scene, which is evidence, and the battle didn't involve gunfire. Okay. What was fired was laser cannons, which are silent. Space wars are different from previous wars. Laser cannons are fired, and the battle is resolved in minutes. Do you think it was like before? It took several months. Someone saw our warships take off. It is estimated that all the warships have been dispatched. There must be a lot of aliens coming back this time. As they were talking, someone finally said some reliable news. SYN held a press conference in the form of a TV speech to announce to all the people of M that the war with the aliens was over, and the great M country had won again. Throughout the whole article, there was not a single word about Z country. It seemed that the victory was all due to M country. For this news and SYN's statement, everyone was not surprised. M country has always been like this, and loves to show off. The most important point is that we won. I never thought that we would win the war with the aliens. Are we too strong, or are the aliens too weak? I guess the aliens are too weak. Didn't two groups of aliens come before, and they didn't do anything to us? At this time, someone broke the news that Country Z would hold a press conference and broadcast it live worldwide. SYN's words were just for fun. The specific details of this war still depended on the announcement from Country Z. The key point was that Country Z always reported good news but not bad news. No one could say whether it would reveal the real situation. The announcement was also in the form of a video speech. The spokesperson was Wang Muzhou, the head of the military command center. In the camera, Wang Muzhou had a serious expression. For others, this might be an opportunity to show off, but for Wang Muzhou, it was a shame. After fighting for a long time, not a single warship was left. Although the aliens were driven away, in the final analysis, the aliens could be said to have retreated strategically. How could such a victory be considered a victory? Facing the camera, Wang Muzhou said in a deep voice, 3 hours ago, aliens broke into the solar system, appeared in low Earth orbit, and took the initiative to attack our Earth civilization. Our space forces took the initiative to attack, and several Pangu-class battleships met the enemy. In the end, we repelled the aliens. This battle lasted for 37 minutes. We lost 309 carrier-based aircraft pilots. They are heroes of our human civilization, and should be remembered forever. At the beginning, the people watching the live broadcast were in a relaxed mood. After all, they won. But when they heard that 309 pilots had died, everyone's heart became heavy in an instant. Chapter 429 Stellar Class Star Destroyer. Next, I will read out the names of the pilots who died. They are Colonel Ma Wenhei, Major Zhu Shitan, Captain Morton. Wang Muzhou read out the names one by one, very slowly, and it took a long time. But no one felt annoyed, and listening to these names, the mood became heavier and heavier. It can be imagined that behind these names are living people. In the land of China, at some point, someone began to sing the national anthem, like a war song, to welcome the heroic souls back to their hometown. At this moment, everyone deeply understood that there has never been a peaceful time, but someone is carrying the burden for you. Salute. All the soldiers in major military bases were also watching this live broadcast. Everyone saluted and took off their hats to salute. On the 6 warships still on alert in the Earth's orbit, Lin Zhao stood solemnly, with Jinzi standing beside him, with a serious expression. Chen Fingqiu's heavy voice came from the loudspeaker. Let us salute the heroes. Everyone saluted, tears in their eyes. Zhou Yang, who had returned to the institute, also locked himself in the room and heard Wang Mazhao reading out one name after another. Zhou Yang was not sad. The crisis was temporarily resolved, but a greater crisis was approaching. No one knew how many warships the Desert civilization would send next time. What Zhou Yang could do was to be prepared before the enemy arrived. Zhou Yang was sorting out the relevant technical information of the super weapon. This super weapon was named the Star-class Star Destroyer Cannon by the system. From the name, we can also see something. It is a powerful weapon that can destroy a planet by activating the energy of the star. What is a super weapon? The starting standard is that one shot can destroy a planet. Specifically in terms of construction, if you want to build a super weapon, then the first goal is to increase the power of the weapon. If this is a laser cannon, then as long as the power of the laser is continuously increased to a certain level, it can destroy a planet with one shot. This requires a strong energy input, and this place involves energy conversion and energy constraint. If the energy constraint is strong enough, then I will light a fire and keep accumulating energy. After tens of millions of years, I can also accumulate enough energy. The only difference is efficiency. Super weapons first solve the energy problem. In the universe, the amazing energy source that can be seen everywhere is of course the star. Stars in their prime have been in a fusion state and are unstable in nature, but after collapse, they become star cores, which become stable energy sources. This is also the reason why star cores are precious and become the first choice for making super weapons. Then, there are the problems of energy conversion and energy constraint. The technical difficulties are not low. Solving this step is not enough. The technical information Zhou Yang got also proposed the concept of an energy amplifier, which is actually completely inconsistent with the law of conservation of energy. Any power amplifier actually consumes energy to amplify. It is impossible to amplify energy out of thin air and produce more energy. After Zhou Yang carefully studied it, he found that the so-called energy amplifier in the system should be more accurately called an energy compression method. With specific technology, energy is compressed to obtain greater power. The whole process is like amplifying energy, so it is called an energy amplifier. However, compressing energy, especially compressing such a huge amount of energy, is obviously not a simple matter. It requires a super powerful magnetic field generator. Finally, there are the difficulties in manufacturing, materials that meet the requirements, etc. After Zhou Yang's careful research, he also found that there are some technical difficulties in the technical data of the Star Destroyer cannon, which are closely related to the existing technical reserves. Zhou Yang calculated that, if he really wanted to do it, he should be able to complete the design of the prototype in 2 to 3 months. This speed is a bit unbelievable, but if you think about it carefully, it is actually normal. The key core of manufacturing super weapons, the Star Core, has long been obtained, and the complete technical data has been obtained. Moreover, the technology of laser cannons has long been broken on Earth, and now there is also technology to produce laser cannons at the main gun level of interstellar battleships. The relevant technical conditions are actually mature, and there are only a few technical difficulties that need to be overcome. Next, Zhou Yang continued to plan the research route, divide the project team, and consider who will be in charge of the project team. This work is more complicated, and the ability of each project team leader must be fully considered. At the same time, Zhou Yang was equivalent to studying it himself. He first went through it in his mind, and had an idea. He knew which difficulties to overcome, and which difficulties were the key points, before he could make specific divisions. This work was not completed until the next morning by Zhou Yang. After pressing the pager, Li Xiao quickly pushed the door open, and saw that he had only taken a few bites of food on the table. He hurriedly said, "Mr. Zhao, you can't work without sleep like this." Zhou Yang waved his hand and said, "Okay, prepare some food for me, I'll take a nap. Then you distribute all these documents and materials to the right places. By the way, everyone who is on vacation in the institute has returned." Li Xiao nodded and hurried to prepare. But when he came back with the food, Zhou Yang had already fallen asleep, so Li Xiao had to give up. In a spacious laboratory in the institute, in the center of the experiment, a huge star core was placed. There are a lot of measuring instruments around the star core. Some researchers are studying the star core. Not far away, Yi Rongming is checking the experimental data, shaking his head slightly, and saying, "Old kin, it still doesn't work." There is also a middle-aged scientist standing next to Yi Rongming, named Qin, who sighed and said, "It turns out that it is too difficult to crush the shell of this thing." The two of them have been studying this star core for a long time with their team. First of all, they found one thing, that is, a translucent crystal has formed on the periphery of the star core. The thickness is unknown, because there is no way to measure it, but the strength of this layer of translucent crystal is amazing. They tried every means, but they couldn't break this layer of shell. Whether it is high temperature or various cutting methods, it is useless. If you can't even break the shell, how can you use the energy inside? Yi Rongming speculated that this layer of shell may be a special material formed by the original mass of the star under ultra-high pressure and ultra-high temperature after the star collapses. It can be imagined that this thing can even withstand the gravity of the black hole, so its strength can be imagined. At one point, Yi Rongming was ready to give up on breaking the outer shell and look for other ways to use the core of the star. For example, they discovered early on that even through the outer shell, the core of the star would still emit radiation outward. Chapter 430 Proxima b. Although the intensity is very weak, radiation itself is also a form of energy. But after trying, nothing was found. At this time, Li Ziyu walked into the laboratory and said with a smile, "Academician Yi, Academician Qin, I hope I didn't disturb you too." It turned out to be Secretary Li. "Is there something wrong? Is it Mr. Zhou who wants to see us?" Yi Rongming asked. Li Ziyu shook his head, walked up and handed over a file bag with the word "top secret" written on it, and said, "The information inside was given to you by Mr. Zhou. I have other things to do, so I won't disturb you two from working." After that, he turned and left. Yi Rongming did not hesitate, and quickly opened the file bag to check the internal information. "Old Yi, what information did Mr. Zhou give you?" Qin asked. At this time, Yi Rongming suddenly slapped his thigh and said excitedly, "Yes, why didn't I think of it?" Qin was startled and asked, "What did you not expect? What's going on?" Yi Rongming hurriedly said, "Quantum entanglement. Mr. Zhou is really a genius." "Quantum entanglement?" Qin was even more confused. Yi Rongming quickly handed the information in his hand to Qin and said, "Didn't we consider collecting the radiation energy emitted by the star core before, which is also considered to be utilizing the energy inside the star core?" Qin nodded, but it turned out that it was not possible. Yi Rongming continued, "But we thought that the energy could not reach the level we wanted, so we gave up this route. In fact, we should continue to research and develop on this route, and perhaps we will find something." Pointing at the information, Yi Rongming said, "Mr. Zhou helped us think of a way that may be able to utilize the energy inside the star core." Qin was also reading the information. The more he read, the more shocked he was. He felt incredible about Zhou Yang's wild ideas. Zhou Yang proposed a method, which is to use quantum entanglement to build a system, treat the star core as an engine, and continuously do work to produce energy. The whole process is like this. First of all, we must understand the meaning of quantum entanglement. The so-called quantum entanglement is the phenomenon that two particles affect each other. These two particles can even be in different spaces. The previously popular quantum communication is based on this principle. Even in different spaces, by using the quantum entanglement phenomenon of particle A and particle B, if the particle A moves in a specific way, particle B will also move in the same way. Under this premise, you can send information across an infinite distance without any delay by just finding an encryption mode. Of course, the whole process is easy to say, but it is difficult to implement. Zhou Yang proposed that, because of the special movement trajectory of particles inside the star core, the quantum entanglement image can be used to find the corresponding particles and form a quantum entanglement phenomenon with the particles inside the star core. In this way, the star core keeps running, and through quantum entanglement, it triggers the external particles to run in the same way, and then designs a system to generate energy, thereby completing the use of the star core. Yi Rongming initially thought of directly using the energy inside the star core. However, Zhou Yang's design is equivalent to treating the star core as an engine, which drives the generator and then generates energy. The oil that supports the operation of the engine is the particles in the special motion formed inside the core of the star. Because of the collapse of the star, these particles will decay slowly like radiation. Therefore, the whole process is not a perpetual motion machine. The core of the star as an engine also has a life limit. Once the life is exhausted, the core of the star will be scrapped. Qin and Min sighed. After all, it is Mr. Zhao. I really don't know how he came up with such a method. Yi Rongming nodded and said, Old Qin, now that we have a plan, we don't have to grope the elephant blindly. Just study in this direction. When Zhou Yang woke up again, it was still dark. He glanced at the time and slept all day. Shaking his head, Zhou Yang simply washed up and went to the cafeteria for dinner. While eating, Zhou Yang took out his mobile phone to check the situation of the deep space detection system. The 9 Desertine warships had not left yet and remained in place. Zhou Yang frowned. These 9 warships had not left, which was no different from blocking the Earth. It made people feel like a fishbone stuck in their throats. But if they wanted to drive them away, they didn't have the strength. At the military command center, 6 Pangu-class warships were still on alert in the Earth's orbit. If these 9 warships did not withdraw, they would not dare to stop. Li Xiaoyu found Zhou Yang and reminded him that there was a meeting of the emergency committee. Zhou Yang said he knew, but he was thinking about the main task. The main task was to step into the starry sky and complete a space colonization. The space jump technology has been studied for a month, and the progress is not fast, but the existence of dark matter has been preliminarily observed, and now efforts are being made to extract dark matter. However, as long as dark matter can be extracted, the speed of research and development will definitely increase. Zhou Yang speculated that it would take 3 to 6 months to develop a space jump device. At this time, the number of warships on Earth will reach 18, or even more. If the construction of super weapons is completed before this, it will be even more perfect. After having someone make a cup of tea, Zhou Yang called Fuxi. Fuxi, help me collect the information on planets suitable for human habitation discovered by major observatories and space agencies in recent years. Okay, sir. After Fuxi finished speaking, it took only half a minute to collect the information. Sir, according to the data collected by major observatories, there are more than 4,000 near-Earth planets discovered so far, and there are 78 planets that are speculated to be suitable for human habitation. The farthest is 1,400 light-years away from the Earth, and the closest is Proxima b, which is 4.2 light-years away from us. 4.2 light-years, so close. What is the situation of Proxima b? Zhou Yang asked. The mobile phone projected a holographic projection of the planet. It was a planet with clear black and white. Fuxi explained. Proxima b is a planet of Proxima Centauri. Since Proxima Centauri is a red dwarf star and is too close to Proxima Centauri b, it is speculated that Proxima b may be locked by the gravity of Proxima Centauri, so one side of Proxima b will always face Proxima Centauri. Zhou Yang nodded. This is because the gravity of the star is too strong, directly pulling the planet. Just like the Earth and the moon always has one side facing away from the Earth. Fuxi continued, the side facing Proxima Centauri and the side facing away should not be suitable for life, but the observatory speculates that at the junction of night and day, equivalent to the position of the Terminator, there may be an environment zone suitable for survival, and there may be life. Zhou Yang looked at the planet carefully. It is possible that there is life nearby. When the space jump technology is completed, you can go to this planet first to take a look. Chapter 431 Space Teleportation Experiment. Time flies, and it is the end of March. The remaining 6 Pangu-class warships under construction have also been completed. With 12 warships, the Earth's defense force has become much stronger. The research on space jumps has finally been put on the right track. In the institute, Zhou Yang and others gathered together and were watching an experiment on the big screen. On the big screen, there was a brightly lit factory building located near the Northwest nuclear base. The factory building was empty, with only 2 sets of almost identical and extremely complex instruments placed on the scene. This is a space jump device, but it is not a real space jump device. The space jump device can tear the space for jump transmission after knowing the predetermined coordinates, but the instrument in front of us is just to verify some technologies. Its main function is to verify whether the space channel can be truly opened and items can be transmitted. The two devices are equivalent to point A and point B of the coordinates. At that time, they will be started at the same time to form a space channel. The two devices are 10 meters apart, and a large number of robots are running back and forth on the scene to carry out the final debugging and preparation work. The reason why people are not used is that they are afraid of explosions. The collision of positive matter and dark matter is not a beautiful scene. The power of the explosion is much more powerful than a nuclear bomb. If the power is large, it may even blow up the Earth. Of course, the two devices in front of us have surprisingly low power and are only used to verify the technology. If they are really made, they will definitely be tested in space. Sir, it's ready. Fuchs's voice sounded. Everyone present looked at Zhou Yang, waiting for Zhou Yang's order. Zhou Yang's eyes were bright. Whether the efforts of nearly 3 months will succeed or not depends on today. All personnel evacuate. Zhou Yang ordered. All researchers on the scene evacuated according to the predetermined plan, leaving the robot on the scene. After everyone evacuated, Zhou Yang said, "Start the system." The system is remotely started. When the device is started, it can be clearly seen that there are two spheres, one black and one white, running at high speed in the transparent structure. The solution given by the system is similar to that of Irina's space jump device. It should be the same technical route, so the basic structure is also similar. As the energy was poured in and increased, the area around the black sphere became even darker, as if a black hole had been created. That kind of black sucked in all matter, even light. So the black sphere slowly disappeared on the big screen. It was not that it was invisible, but that the light was not reflected and could not be seen by the human eye. About 15 seconds later, the energy reached the critical point. Looking at the data feedback, enough dark matter was also captured. Everyone held their breath. The next step was the most critical point. The collision of dark matter and positive matter produced a space channel. If this place failed, it would be a devastating explosion. At the top of the two devices, the space was slowly torn apart like a curtain. Everyone showed excitement and stared at the torn space channel intently. The mysteries of the universe are all in this space, Yi Rongming said slowly. Others also nodded, dazzled. Zhou Yang checked the data feedback one by one. There was no clear indicator to prove whether the space channel was formed, but some changes had already occurred on the scene. The irons were wandering, and the robot waiting next to it actually floated up slowly. Gravity is changing. Everyone's eyes widened. Li Bingxuan said in fear. Fortunately, Mr. Zhou proposed to fix the device on the ground before, otherwise something bad would have happened. Before the experiment, Zhou Yang proposed to fix the two devices and all the instruments on the ground. At that time, everyone did not understand the meaning of this move, but now they understand it. The Earth has gravity, and the space jump tears the space, and the gravity repels, forming a weightless environment. Zhu Jindong analyzed. Zhou Yang's expression was serious, and he said, "Fuxi, let the robot move." On the big screen, a robot suspended in the air sprayed gas around its body, adjusted its posture, and floated towards a cage in the distance. There were some mice in the cage. To do a teleportation experiment, this kind of experiment, that has never been tested, how could it be tested with living people? The robot reached out and grabbed a mouse and came to the side of device A. At the top of device A, there was a transparent cabin. Open the hatch and put the mouse in it. Zhou Yang also immediately ordered, "Fire." Accompanied by high pressure gas, the cabin bounced directly, accurately drilled into the torn space channel, and quickly disappeared. Almost instantly, the cabin came out of the space channel torn on the side of device B, and fell on the top of device B. The whole process was like teleportation, and no time interval could be felt. Everyone looked at the cabin at the first time. In the transparent cabin, the little white mouse was still crawling around in the same place, alive and well. Is this considered a success? Yi Rongming asked uncertainly. Everyone looked at Zhou Yang. The laboratory was designed by everyone, but whether it was successful or not still needed Zhou Yang to nod and confirm. Facing the expectant eyes of everyone, Zhou Yang nodded vigorously. The first step of research and development was considered a success. Everyone burst into huge cheers. In the past 3 months, how many R&D personnel have put in so much effort to complete this device? Only they know the hardships involved. Zhou Yang ordered the device to be shut down and asked the researchers in front to quickly enter the scene to test the situation of the device on site and the situation of the little white mouse. After doing all this, he excitedly waved his fist. The most important first step was successful, so the next step would be much easier. Zhou Yang was sure that he could completely complete the space jump device before the end of May. The space jump device is so important. Although everyone was given a day off to rest, Zhou Yang himself did not take a day off. He still had to focus on the research and development of super weapons. According to the research and development route given by Zhou Yang, the entire research and development process was very fast. The energy launch device, which is equivalent to an engine, already has the first prototype design. After testing, it successfully generated energy through quantum entanglement, but the utilization efficiency is too low, and it does not reach the level of a super weapon at all, so it is still under modification. However, Zhou Yang thinks that perhaps the completion of the super weapon must be completed before the space jump device. Time flies, and it is mid-May. The reinforcement from Desatine did not arrive, but another fleet, the fleet of the Oma civilization, did. On May 16th, at 5:32 am BJ time, when it was dawn, the Deep Space Detection System immediately detected a huge fleet that suddenly appeared in the solar system. The first level alarm was sounded again. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 432. Another fleet appears. Zhou Yang was shaken awake. Mr. Zhou, something has happened. Please follow us to evacuate. The security guard said nervously. Zhou Yang, who was groggy, woke up instantly. What's going on? Zhou Yang got up quickly and asked while putting on his clothes. The security guard said, we don't know the specific situation. We only know that we received the order of the first level alarm. They are just ordinary security special agents. How could they know what happened? Fuxi. Zhou Yang shouted immediately. Sir. Fuxi appeared instantly, and at the same time, a projection of the solar system appeared in the room, and then said, Sir, just 1 minute ago, we detected the appearance of a whole fleet, a total of 18 targets, presumably 18 warships. Zhou Yang pushed the security guard aside and stepped forward. In the projection, 18 targets had already entered the solar system, and were approaching Pluto quickly. And here, Desatine's 9 warships are still there. After 3 months, they have not evacuated. Reinforcement? Zhou Yang's expression was solemn. The security guard said, Mr. Zhou, we should evacuate. Give me the phone. Zhou Yang took the phone and followed the security guard to the underground refuge base and contacted the military command center at the same time. Wang Mazhao's feedback was that 6 warships had entered combat readiness, while the 12 warships on the ground had not yet taken off, but they had all entered combat readiness. That's right, 2 months later, with global resources, humans built 6 more warships. According to the people on the emergency committee, this thing must be built as many as there are. As long as there are enough resources, then it will continue to be built. Anyway, it will definitely be used in the future. So now humans have a total of 18 Pangu class warships, and at the same time, there are 12 already under construction, and the fastest one has already built its skeleton. The consumption of Earth resources by these warships is extremely astonishing. However, it will probably take a long time to completely exhaust the Earth's resources. Mr. Zhou, all military bases have entered combat readiness. We are ready to use the 12 warships on the ground as surprise troops, because the enemy does not know that we have built 12 more warships, and perhaps we can catch them off guard. Wang Mazhao said. Zhou Yang nodded and said, you decide for yourself. Anyway, try to resolve the battle in space as much as possible. As soon as he finished speaking, Fuchs's voice suddenly sounded saying, "Sir, 9 warships of the Desertine civilization suddenly activated a space jump and disappeared." "What?" Zhou Yang was startled and asked quickly, "Are they coming to the Earth?" "The new 18 targets have also disappeared," Fuchsie said again. Zhou Yang frowned. "They haven't reunited yet, but they are coming directly to the Earth." While he was talking, a few seconds had passed. Logically, if the enemy warships jumped to the Earth's space, they should have appeared in the Earth's orbit. But they didn't. "Where did the enemy go?" Zhou Yang asked. Fuchsie said, "The monitoring system didn't detect it. It seems that they have left the monitoring range." The Deep Space Monitoring System can monitor a distance of 0.5 light years, which is far beyond the Kuiper Belt, where Pluto is located, and has reached the Oort cloud region. Beyond the Oort cloud, it is really the edge of the solar system, where the gravity zone is located. "Wait a little longer." Zhou Yang quickly came to the underground shelter base and checked the situation of the deep space detection system. After scanning again and again, no enemy was found. Could it be that the other party has some idea of shielding detection so that we can't detect it? Zhou Yang held his chin and thought, if there is a detection system, there must be a shielding system. The sword and the shield must exist in relative terms. That's not right. If they turn on the shielding device and make a space jump, they should have appeared near the Earth at this time. If they want to attack the Earth, they should have appeared in the Earth's orbit at this time. Or, after using the shielding device, they can't make a space jump and can only sail. Zhou Yang continued to analyze. If this is the case, at the speed of the enemy warships, it may take 50 hours to reach the Earth. At this time, Fuchsie suddenly said, "Sir, you said that the 18 targets, or warships, that came out later were not warships of the Desertine civilization, but warships of the Oma civilization." Zhou Yang was stunned. I have to say that this possibility is really possible. Kurosawa and Milan have been gone for a long time. Of course, this is a time on the solar system side. Outside the solar system, there may be several days. Using the space jump device, Kurosawa and the others should have returned to the Oma civilization. Perhaps the Oma civilization is willing to cooperate with the Earth civilization, so it sent a fleet to support the Earth. And this fleet just appeared, and then it was discovered by the 9 warships of the Desertine civilization. The Oma civilization is their mortal enemy, and unlike the Earth civilization, the warships of the Oma civilization must have space jump devices. The number is not dominant, so it is not impossible that the warships of Desertine directly jumped and escaped. On the other hand, when the Oma civilization saw the warships of the Desertine civilization, it must be an enemy meeting, and they were extremely jealous, so they directly started the space jump and chased after them. The whole process is consistent with the detected situation. Zhou Yang came back to his senses and said, "Then in this situation, we can only wait." Fuchsie nodded. The Earth can only passively defend, and can only wait for the enemy to take action first. Taking advantage of his free time, Zhou Yang called to ask about his family's situation and evacuated urgently. All parts of the world were once again on alert. Everyone began to evacuate to underground air defense fortifications and refuge bases. With the precedent of the last time, there were not many people who resisted this time. For example, Zhou Yang, after receiving the message prompt, immediately followed Dabe to the air defense fortifications. Time passed in a flash, and half an hour had passed. Zhou Yang said, "If this new fleet is really from the Oma civilization, then tell me, what purpose do they come with?" Fuchsie was stunned and said, "Sir, do you mean that the fleet of the Oma civilization may not only come to assist us?" Zhou Yang nodded and said, "Of course, it may also be that I'm judging others by my own standards, but it is related to the survival of civilization. I can't help but think more. Think about it, the Oma civilization sent a fleet. It may be to support us, or it may be to take the opportunity to annex us. You know, they have prepared an evacuation plan. They were originally preparing to evacuate to the Earth, and when they saw the Earthlings asking for help, it was just right, and they sent a fleet directly to clear the Earth first, and move to another place. It's not impossible." Chapter 433 Mother Planet. Fuchsie thought for a while and said, "Sir, everything is just your speculation, but I think the key is our own strength. Whether it is the Decidin civilization or the Oma civilization, I think we are definitely not as good as them in terms of the number of warships. After all, they control a larger area and have more resources, so the number of warships will definitely not be less. Zhou Yang nodded. The Oma civilization alone controls 3 star systems like the solar system, and the Decidin civilization can suppress the Oma civilization, which means it is stronger. Fuchsie continued, but we are not without a chance. The completion of space jump technology is a qualitative improvement, which will bring us to the same technological level as them. More importantly, we still have the killer weapon of super weapons, and from the technical data we have obtained, neither the Decidin civilization nor the Oma civilization should have super weapons. No matter which civilization this fleet is from and what purpose it comes with, as long as we steadily improve our own strength, we can deal with all problems and protect ourselves. Zhou Yang nodded. Indeed, the iron must be hard to forge, and only when the strength is strong enough can we deal with all situations. At this time, Fuchsie suddenly said, "Sir, the target has appeared again." Oh. Zhou Yang hurried to the control center to check. Sure enough, the detection system detected that the 18 targets had reappeared near Pluto. Not close. Are they waiting for something? Zhou Yang frowned. Zhou Yang called up the situation near the Earth's orbit again. The 6 Pangu class warships were in synchronous orbit with the Earth, and there was no change. At this moment, the space near the Earth's orbit was torn apart, and the space channel appeared. The next moment, a small triangular warship drilled out of the space channel. Ship number 1, Chenfing-Kyo, noticed the appearance of the space channel at the first time. His face changed slightly, and he immediately shouted, "Quick, the enemy is coming. Be prepared, and attack immediately once the enemy appears." Tangling next to him also had a solemn expression, and said in a deep voice, "Old Chen, the staff discussed before that directly attacking the space jump channel may interrupt their space jump. Should we try it? The entire space jump process is to tear the space channel first, and then the warship will drill out. There is a time difference in between, which is not long, at most a few seconds." But it was too late to speak. Attack. Chenfing-Kyo gave the order without hesitation. But the attack did not occur, and the laser cannon did not fire. What's going on? Chenfing-Kyo's face changed drastically. The staff below shouted, "I don't know, the launch order seems to be blocked. The launch order has been issued, but the system has not executed it." At this time, a triangular battleship has appeared. Chenfing-Kyo cursed in his heart that the system failed at the critical moment. Just as he was about to ask what happened, the voice of the battleship's intelligent program suddenly rang in his ear. "Received the highest order. Suspend the attack." Chenfing-Kyo was stunned. The highest order? What's going on? This is the highest order. There are only 8 people in the world who have the authority to issue the highest order. In the military command center, Wang Mazhao was also at a loss. He had clearly issued the order to attack, but all the battleships and laser cannon bases were all silent and did not attack. While he was wondering, Fuchsie appeared and said, "Minister Wang, please hold off the attack. This is a warship of the Oma civilization." Wang Mazhao was stunned. Looking at the triangular warship in space, he suddenly recognized it. It was the small warship that was sent out before to form an alliance with the Oma civilization. Then the 18 warships near Pluto are the warships of the Oma civilization. No wonder the 9 warships of the Decidin civilization suddenly jumped in space. It turned out that they found the warships of the Oma civilization and ran away. The Oma civilization also went to hunt them down, and now they appear again. Wang Mazhao instantly deduced something, and his expression relaxed a little. As long as it was not an enemy warship, it was a good thing. There were 4 people in the cockpit of the triangular warship. Kurosawa and Milin. The remaining 2 people had similar appearance features to Kurosawa. That was the Oma civilization. One of them was wearing a green military uniform with a straight figure and sharp eyes. The last one was wearing a long robe with various complex decorations. He was a middle-aged man with grey hair on his temples and glasses. He was much more elegant and more like a politician. After drilling out of the space channel, the 4 people looked at the Earth at the same time. "A blue planet. Administrator Inal, is this some other planet?" said the soldier. The middle-aged man was called Inal. He was the administrator of the Oma civilization and a senior official of the ruling body. He was also a little dazzled by this matter. He nodded and said, "Yes, General Handmo, this is our mother planet, the place where our civilization was born." After a pause, Inal continued, "Once, the mother planet only existed in our historical records. There were only some images and text records describing that era. Now, I finally saw it with my own eyes." Inal couldn't help but feel a little excited. The concept of the mother planet is more of a sense of identity from civilization. The Oma civilization was forced to leave its home planet, drifting between the stars, and then arrived at Lucas Star. After a long period of hard work and reproduction, the hardships and sufferings experienced have planted a pessimistic mood in this civilization. They are like strangers, and this mood is deeply rooted in their civilization history. As far as Inal knows, in the history of the Oma civilization, more than one plan to return to the home planet has been proposed, but it was eventually shelved. Until now, the war with the Decident civilization has brought up the home planet again. It's just that the top leaders of the Oma civilization did not expect that a new civilization would be born on their home planet, and it is developing very fast. "Hey, battleship, where did it come from?" At this moment, Kurosawa exclaimed and suddenly noticed an extremely large battleship in the distant Earth orbit. General Handmo's expression suddenly became serious, and he said, "Quick, contact our fleet and ask them to start a space jump to come over for support. There are warships from the Decident civilization here. Kurosawa, start the warship and return." At this moment, Millen suddenly said, "Wait a minute, look at the top of that warship, there is the flag of country Z." In the distance, there was indeed a bright red national flag painted on the side of the top of the huge warship in front. Kurosawa was startled, and while he was wondering, the intelligent program Black Flag said, "A communication request from the Earth was detected." The next moment, the holographic projection projected Zhou Yang's figure. "Mr. Zhou," Millen exclaimed. When Inal and General Handmo saw Zhou Yang appearing out of thin air, they were surprised and curious. As for Zhou Yang, when he saw the four people in the cockpit, his expression became more serious. Sure enough, the fleet of the Oma civilization had arrived. Chapter 434, Returning to One's Ancestors. Zhou Yang nodded slightly to the two of them, then turned to Kurosawa and said, "I'll let Fuxi guide you to land, and we'll talk about everything when we meet." Kurosawa nodded, and was shocked. It had only been a short time since he left, just a few days, and warships had been built on Earth, and they were so big. Zhou Yang disappeared, and Hiki also determined the landing coordinates from Fuxi. Kurosawa took a look at the coordinates, which were Zhou Yang's research institute. This place was safe, and it also showed that Zhou Yang would show up in person, which was enough to prove his sincerity. "My lords, we've landed," Kurosawa said. Inal nodded, looked at the Pangu class battleship in the distance, and said, "General Handmo, what do you think of their battleship?" Handmo had been staring at the Pangu class battleship. When he heard Inal's words, he smiled contemptuously and said, "It's very big, with many guns, but I don't know if it has broken through key technologies such as energy shields and space jumps. Without these two technologies, this kind of battleship is just a huge coffin box." Inal sighed lightly, his expression became a little serious, and said, "I originally thought that human civilization was still in the early stages of level 1 civilization, as Kurosawa said. I didn't expect them to develop so fast that they can even create interstellar battleships." "Kurosawa, when you came back, didn't you say that they only had level 2 armor, and the battleship only built a flying shell?" Kurosawa asked puzzledly. "When I left, their battleship had not been successful yet. I only knew that they built a shell and displayed it at the military parade." Kurosawa was captured during the military parade. Later, the management was lax, so he still knew some information about the Earth, such as the existence of the Pangu class battleship. However, in the intelligence that Kurosawa got, the Pangu class battleship was just a shell. When Kurosawa and Millen left, the Pangu class battleship had just been completed, but he naturally didn't know that kind of confidential information. As for Millen, after she was thawed and resurrected, she integrated into the lives of ordinary people. She has been under the surveillance of the National Security Bureau, and the information she can know is also limited. Inal waved his hand, indicating that Kurosawa didn't need to say anything more, and said, if human civilization has mastered the construction method of interstellar battleships, then I'm afraid we have to change our strategy. Hanemo frowned and said, do we really have to form an alliance with them? Even if they can build interstellar battleships, what can they do? Their technological level is too low, and they can't help us at all. As for these 6 battleships, even if they are multiplied several times, Hanemo doesn't care. In his opinion, the battle between several battleships is just like children playing house. You know, the battle between the Oma civilization and the Decidin civilization was a huge war involving tens of thousands of warships, tens of millions of soldiers, or even hundreds of millions of soldiers, which could affect the entire star system. Not to help us. Inal shook his head. With the technological level of human civilization, what can it do to help the Oma civilization? He said, Your Majesty's initial idea was to implement an evacuation plan, retain some elites, return to the mother planet, and rebuild our civilization. But then Your Majesty changed his mind. The Decidin civilization will not let us go, unless we leave the Milky Way. After a pause, Inal lowered his voice and said, Your Majesty has sent a special envoy to Hirana to ask for Hirana's assistance, to mediate the battle between us and the Decidin civilization. If the Hirana civilization is willing to help, we will pay a huge price, such as population, resource planets, compensation, etc. But at least we can guarantee the safety of civilization. Hanemo took a breath and knew about this. He thought about it and said, compared to withdrawing to the mother planet, asking for help from Hirana is indeed a better way. If Hirana is willing to come forward to mediate, the Decidin civilization will definitely not dare to attack again. In the Milky Way, Hirana is like an emperor, and he has the final say. Then why do we go back to the mother planet? Hanemo asked. Inal said, after all, this is our home planet and the origin of our history. Many governors in the administrative group still have some feelings for the home planet, so their idea is to come back to support human civilization. After all, we have the same roots and origins. We also developed from the situation of human civilization back then. No reward. Hanmo frowned. Inal nodded and said, then tell me, what can humans give us in return? Hanmo stopped talking. He really didn't care about the technological level of human civilization. He snorted and said, they are cheap. At this time, Milin, who had been silent all the time, suddenly asked, Inal, what strategy did you originally plan to implement? Your Highness. Inal bowed slightly and shouted respectfully. Milin, an Oma who left the Earth during the Oma civilization, witnessed the most difficult period of history of the Oma civilization. He is a living history book. His appearance shocked the entire Oma civilization. It's like one day, your ancestor 20,000 years ago suddenly appeared. For this reason, the emperor of the Oma civilization made Milin a princess, with the purpose of letting his people remember that difficult time and history. After a pause, Inal said, our original strategy was to let human civilization return to our Oma civilization. Milin's eyes widened. What is the return to the Oma civilization? To put it bluntly, it is to let humans recognize their ancestors. In other words, the Oma civilization regards itself as the ancestor of mankind. Hanmo snorted and said, we are the first civilization born on the mother planet. Human civilization emerged by inheriting our will. From this perspective, we are their ancestors. Now they are willing to let them return to our Oma civilization and recognize that they are our Oma civilization. It is already a great grace. Milin shook her head and said, humans will not agree. Inal smiled and thought to himself, why did they bring the warships here? Isn't it just to persuade humans? Don't worry, princess, I have decided to give up this strategy. According to what humans proposed, I will form an alliance with them and help them. Inal said. Really? Milin nodded. He was resurrected by Zhou Yang, and he was still full of gratitude to humans. Of course. Inal smiled, but in his heart, he said that, if he hadn't seen humans build interstellar battleships, he would not cooperate with humans. The battleships were built, and there were 9 Decidin battleships outside the solar system before. Hanmo didn't think of that, but Inal thought of it. If the Decidin battleships appeared here, would they not attack the Earth? Probably not. But the Earth civilization resisted, which is intriguing. Chapter 435 First Conversation. In Inal's opinion, the Earth civilization at this time has enough technology to build interstellar battleships. Although the level of interstellar battleships is still unknown, the fact that they can be built shows their strength. Although Inal believes that with the strength of the Oma civilization, it should be easy to wipe out the human race, but what can it do if it is wiped out? Will it take back the mother planet? The Oma civilization has long moved away, and the mother planet is only symbolic. Getting such an unusable mother planet is really meaningless. Moreover, attacking the Earth will inevitably lose precious Oma civilization warriors. Therefore, from any perspective, it is not worth the loss to capture the Earth at this time. So cooperate. Send a fleet to help the Earth civilization defend against the Decidin civilization. After all, it is a war with the Decidin civilization, and it doesn't matter where it is. Then at most give some technology. These things are insignificant. With a strategy in mind, Inal no longer thought about it. Just as the battleship passed through the atmosphere, the beautiful rivers and mountains of the Earth were in full view. Mother planet. Inal muttered to himself with a smile on his face. Hanema beside him also looked around curiously and said, "It seems to be different from our historical records. 65 million years ago, when the Oma civilization left the Earth, the continental drift was not so severe." "It is continental drift," Milan explained. She knew the older history of the Oma civilization. "You know, the continental plates began to drift 200 million years ago." Inal sighed. "What a beautiful planet. I feel particularly at home when I return here." Hanemo sneered secretly. The words of politicians can't be trusted at all. On the other side, after Zhou Yang confirmed the identity of the visitor, he first asked the military command center to lift the alarm, and then contacted the other 7 members of the emergency committee as soon as possible. After listening to Zhou Yang's explanation, the person in charge of Country Z said in surprise, "I didn't expect that the Oma civilization actually came, and they sent a whole fleet." Sin also smiled and said, "Then if we form an alliance with the Oma civilization, we can not only resist the Decidin civilization, but also obtain a lot of technology." Zhou Yang shook his head and reminded, "Don't forget, the Oma civilization is not the opponent of the Decidin civilization." Sin was stunned, and then he remembered this link, and said depressedly, "Then what's the point of our alliance with the Oma civilization? And this has completely offended the Decidin civilization." The person in charge of Country Z said in a deep voice, "We have discussed this issue. Even if we don't form an alliance with the Oma civilization, we have already gone to war with the Decidin civilization, and the Decidin civilization will not let us go. And we can't pin our hopes of survival on the Oma civilization. Although we were born on the same planet, we are completely different civilizations. If we want to survive, we can only rely on ourselves. The alliance with the Oma civilization is just to gain one more friend. If there are benefits, that's of course the best. If there are no benefits, there is no need to regret it." Zhou Yang nodded. His idea coincided with that of the person in charge of Country Z. It is better to rely on oneself than on others. They are not of the same clan, and separated by tens of millions of years. In Zhou Yang's view, human civilization and Oma civilization are at most close neighbors, and there is no other relationship. The envoy of Oma civilization will be here soon. "How should we talk, and who will talk?" Zhou Yang asked. Several people looked at each other, and the person in charge of Country Z said, "Mr. Zhao, we are too far away, so we will not rush over. You will represent us, and negotiate with them." After speaking, Sin next to him said, "It doesn't matter, I can go over. This time it should be their politicians who are coming. The means of politicians are too dirty. Mr. Zhao is a pure scientist, and does not understand these things. With me by his side, he can also see through the conspiracy of these Oma people. So, Mr. Zhao, please wait for a moment. I will take the Zuaniuan to go there." Others were speechless, and Zhou Yang was helpless. "Are you sure you don't want to show off? And you said that politicians have dirty means. Aren't you scolding yourself?" After speaking, Sin hurriedly went offline. This guy, if he wants to go, then go. The person in charge of Country Z smiled bitterly, and also went offline. Zhou Yang stood up, thought for a while, and called Li Ziyu, saying, "Arrange a car or other means of transportation, get ready, and wait for my notice." Also, ask BJ to prepare a high standard reception standard. A guest from afar, and a special envoy, the proper etiquette should be observed. The warship had not landed yet, but Scene arrived first, looking radiant, and asked as soon as he came down, "Mr. Zhou, you should have a photographer here." Photographer? Zhou Yang was stunned. Scene nodded and said, "This kind of moment of great historical significance must of course be recorded. Recorded in history forever, and remembered by future generations." Zhou Yang was speechless. "You think so?" However, Zhou Yang was too lazy to pay attention to such trivial matters, waved his hand, and asked Li Ziyu to find a photographer. Soon, the warship also appeared above the institute and slowly docked in the large square in front of the institute. The warship stopped steadily, and Zhou Yang and Scene, with the relevant person in charge and entourage of the institute, waited in front of the warship. The battleship started, and Inal and his 4 companions appeared outside the battleship. "Mr. Zhou, nice to see you again." Milin came forward with some excitement. She hadn't seen Zhou Yang for a long time. Inal, with Hanmo and Kurosawa, tilted his right arm across his chest, and bowed to Zhou Yang and others. Scene bowed at the first time, and Zhou Yang smiled secretly, so he could only bow slightly and greet him. Inal and the other 2 came forward. Inal took out a box-sized thing from his pocket, and with a slight push, it flew into the air, like a drone, hovering beside him. Then Inal spoke, and from this box, Chinese words came out. "Hello, my dear compatriots, I'm Inal, the governor from the Oma civilization." It was a translator. As for how he understood Chinese, it should be Milin who helped him. "This is General Hanmo." Inal pointed at Hanmo and introduced him. Zhou Yang was secretly surprised. "Dear compatriots, this attitude is a bit too friendly." "Hello." Scene stepped forward immediately. He also spoke fluent Chinese. This guy had worked hard to learn Chinese. He pointed at Zhou Yang and introduced himself. "My name is Scene, and this is Zhou Yang. Our human civilization now exists in the form of a confederation called the Z Confederation. There are 8 persons in charge in the confederation, who jointly manage the entire confederation. Mr. Zhou and I are one of them. This time, the 2 of us will represent the entire human civilization and communicate with you." After speaking, he looked at Zhou Yang and asked, "Mr. Zhou, do you have anything else to add?" Zhou Yang looked at Scene, smiled and shook his head, thinking to himself, "You can speak better than me. What else can I say?" Chapter 436. The alien is an alcoholic. With a translator, communication is much more convenient. After some simple pleasantries, Zhou Yang proposed to take Inal to BJ, where formal negotiations would be held. "Okay, I also want to take a look at your human civilization." Inal smiled and had an attitude of doing whatever you want. At first glance, he was an old politician. At that moment, everyone took a car and headed to BJ. Along the way, Inal and Hanmo looked at the city outside the window with interest. "It's very prosperous," Inal said with a smile. "Thank you." Zhou Yang thanked him, but he didn't know if Inal was just being polite or what. At this time, Hanmo asked, "What is your total population? I heard from Princess Milin that you now have 7 billion people." Zhou Yang also found it amazing that Milin became the princess of the Oma civilization. However, Zhou Yang would not say anything, since they were reminiscing about history. He nodded and said, "Yes, we have a population of 7 billion, but the exact number has not been counted." Hanemo said, "That's a lot, but why do I feel that there are not many people in your cities? Have these cities been abandoned by you?" The cities passed along the way really didn't have many people, and seemed quite deserted. And it was not just one city. Zhou Yang said, "During this period, we have to face the invasion of the Desert civilization. For the convenience of management, we intentionally guide ordinary people to stay at home and move around in the virtual world." "Virtual world, what is that?" Inal showed a curious expression. Zhou Yang explained, "In short, it is a virtual world created by us with data, accessed by human brain waves, and in the virtual world, we can create and simulate anything at will." "Oh." Inal's eyes lit up. Milin beside him also said, "The virtual world is a particularly magical world. In this world, you can do almost anything." Inal became more and more interested and asked, "Then Mr. Zhou, can I experience it?" "Of course." Zhou Yang looked at the time and itinerary and said, then let's take a break in the city ahead, and then after dinner, I will ask you to experience the virtual world. Inal nodded repeatedly, and was even very interested in the food on Earth. The convoy stopped in the city ahead, and went directly to a 5-star hotel. The local government had cleared the hotel as soon as possible, and replaced the hotel's service staff with staff from the government guest house. The car slowly stopped, and a group of people got off. Looking at the magnificent hotel lobby, Inal also nodded repeatedly, and seemed to like it very much. Zhou Yang couldn't help but sigh. This civilization that was born on Earth, do they all like this kind of thing? The most luxurious private room in the hotel. The chef is also a well-known local chef, and the dishes he cooks are also famous. Of course, good wine is also indispensable. Collection level red wine and white wine. Hey, is this wine? Inal's attention was quickly focused on the wine. Zhou Yang nodded and waved his hand to let the waiter pour the wine. The collection level famous wine is naturally extraordinary. As soon as the bottle was opened, it exuded a strong aroma of wine. Hanemo sniffed hard, his eyes lit up, and said, your human wine is more mellow than ours. As he said, he picked up the wine glass and drank it in one gulp. This is a collection level Maute. It is soft and not pungent at all. The fragrance overflows between the lips. The taste is not an ordinary enjoyment. Perfect. Hanemo's eyes widened. There is almost no difference between the Oma people and the Earthlings. The NDA of Milan was taken for testing before, and it was also highly similar. So the feeling of wine should be similar. Inal also took a sip, and then he couldn't stop. After a glass of it went down his stomach, he nodded again and again, and exclaimed, I can feel that the alcohol concentration of this wine is very high, but it is not irritating. How did you brew it? Zhou Yang glanced at Scene. Scene's eyes were also filled with question marks. Are all aliens alcoholics? Zhou Yang said, I don't know the specific production process, but it should be distilled or something. And the wine we drink is made from pure grains and stored for many years. Inal asked the waiter to pour him some wine, and then said, it's very delicious. The wine in our civilization is very bland, not as enjoyable as your wine. Zhou Yang was a little amused, and then asked everyone to eat. He praised the wine and the dishes, especially Hanemo, who even felt like he couldn't stop eating. Zhou Yang couldn't help but feel puzzled. Since these two guys were special envoys, their levels should not be low. Why did they feel like they had never enjoyed anything? After this meal, there was no need to experience the virtual world. Inal, Hanemo, and Kurosawa successfully drank themselves up. Especially Hanemo, who seemed to be allergic to alcohol. His face was red, and he lay on the table, snoring, and was carried back to the guest room. Zhou Yang only drank one glass, and after arranging Inal and the other two, he called Milan. Milan, let's find a place to have tea. Zhou Yang said. When they came to the open-air balcony of the hotel, enjoying the night breeze, and having tea prepared, Zhou Yang asked, I never thought that you would become the princess of the Oma Empire. Congratulations. Milan shook her head helplessly and said, I didn't expect it to be like this either. But in my opinion, I'm more like a mascot, and this is not the life I want. I'm a warrior. Zhou Yang did not express any opinions, but changed the subject and asked, if it is convenient, can you tell me about the Oma civilization? Anything is fine. Today, the Earth's understanding of the Oma civilization comes from some marginal information, and even this information is unknown how many years ago. It is impossible to ask Kurosawa and Inal. Only Milan, who has a life-saving friendship, may be able to ask for some useful information. The more we know about the Oma civilization, the more initiative we can have in the subsequent negotiations and cooperation. Of course. Milan nodded, and was silent for a while, as if organizing her words, and then she said, how should I put it? I feel that after so many years, the Oma civilization is still the same Oma civilization. How should I put it? Zhou Yang was surprised. Milan thought for a while and said, I remember you have an idiom called warmongering, which is the most appropriate to describe the Oma civilization. Before leaving the Earth, the Oma civilization was in constant war for countless years, and it collapsed again and again. Milan had said this before. The Oma civilization was extinct 3 times, and flourished 3 times, all of which were their own fault. I originally thought that after they left the Earth and set foot on a new planet, they would learn from history, but they didn't. Mr. Zhou, do you know that this time the war between the Oma civilization and the Decident civilization was first provoked by the Oma civilization? Zhou Yang was slightly stunned. He always thought that it was the Decident civilization that invaded the Oma civilization. After all, the Oma civilization was the beaten party and was obviously weaker. But unexpectedly, it was the weak that provoked the strong first. This is really asking for death. Chapter 437 Experiencing Virtual Space. Zhou Yang sighed, but didn't say much. No matter how weak the Oma civilization is, it is stronger than human civilization. What's the difference between mocking the Oma civilization from the perspective of humans and provoking the Decident civilization? It's just the pot calling the kettle black. Millen sighed and knew what Zhou Yang was most concerned about. She said, Mr. Zhou, don't worry. The Oma civilization came with sincerity this time. They will definitely form an alliance with you and help you defend the Earth. Millen didn't say that Inal's original idea was to force humans to recognize their ancestors. Thank you. Zhou Yang nodded, feeling much more relaxed. With the fleet of the Oma civilization, the defense pressure on the Earth should be much lighter. The next day, Inal and Han Mohedize woke up around noon. When they saw Zhou Yang, they still felt a little hungover. They shook their heads and said, Mr. Zhou, the alcohol you humans drink is really strong. Zhou Yang smiled and invited the three to the restaurant to drink some hangover soup, and then said, since you two are a little unwell, let's take a day off and set off tomorrow. By the way, didn't you say you wanted to experience the virtual space? I'll treat you to it after lunch. Inal nodded. When the virtual space was mentioned, he became interested and asked about the principle of the virtual space. Zhou Yang could only explain the principle of the virtual space in the most understandable words. You are very good at research and development in civilian technology, Inal said with emotion after hearing the last word. Zhou Yang laughed dumbly. The subtext of this sentence was that the human technology tree was wrong, and they were only busy enjoying themselves, and did not focus on the development of weapons technology. Although the feeling of being drunk was very unpleasant, Inal and Han Mo still ordered a bottle of red wine at lunch, and drank another bottle without realizing it. After lunch and a short rest, the two of them, under Zhou Yang's guidance, lay down in the virtual warehouse, and entered the virtual space. You two, I'll wait for you inside. Zhou Yang also lay down in the virtual warehouse. With a flash of light in front of his eyes, Zhou Yang entered the virtual world. And Inal and Hanemo also appeared beside Zhou Yang one after another. Where is this? How did I get here? Hanemo was still a soldier after all. He looked around and said with some caution. The two appeared in a typical Su family garden manner. Zhou Yang smiled and said, this is my home in the virtual world. However, after letting Fuxi build it, Zhou Yang rarely came here, mainly because he had no time. The waterscape made of Tehu stone, with red plum blossoms and fragrant herbs, goldfish swimming in a green pool, and an octagonal pavilion nearby. The scenery can be said to be extremely elegant. Yenal took a deep breath, and could even smell a faint fragrance of flowers. It's so real. Is this really simulated? I can't believe it. Yenal looked puzzled. Zhou Yang took the two to sit down in the pavilion, and with a wave of his hand, clarity appeared in front of them. Please, in the virtual space, it is also possible to simulate taste and smell, and even produce a feeling of fullness. You two can have a taste. This is a simulation of the most precious tea on our earth. Zhou Yang said. Inal nodded. He really liked tea. Hanemo next to him didn't like it very much and asked, Mr. Zhou, where does this world exist? Zhou Yang thought for a while and said, this world exists in electronic signals, and I can't give you an accurate explanation of what dimension the electronic signal space exists in. Hanemo nodded and said to Inal, I heard that Zillina also has a technology called Genesis. Their people can live in a mysterious world. I think that world should be similar to the virtual world. But I heard that they can also deposit their will in that world forever, so as to gain eternal life. Zhou Yang also heard this. Judging from Hanemo's description, it is indeed a virtual world. As the most powerful civilization in the Milky Way, it is reasonable for Zillina to have virtual reality technology. Moreover, Hirana's virtual reality technology is obviously stronger, and it can even store the will forever in the virtual space, thus obtaining the immortality of the will. After humans enter the virtual world, can they stay in the virtual space forever? Zhou Yang has not tried it, but it should not be possible. The way of brainwave access does not mean that your brainwaves have completely entered the virtual space. The virtual helmet or the virtual warehouse is just a bridge to convert your brainwaves into electrical signals and access the virtual space. The subconsciousness of human beings still exists in the body. If you stay in the virtual space all the time, first of all, the body can't bear it. Obviously, Hirana has found a technology that can completely strip away human consciousness and can be preserved. Only in this way can it be permanently uploaded into the virtual space. Inal asked, "Mr. Zhou, can you take me on a tour? I'm very interested in this virtual space technology now." Of course. Zhou Yang snapped his fingers, and the scene suddenly changed, appearing in the real virtual world. The three of them sat in the pavilion, and below them was the virtual space, the 18 main cities of the Z country area. Zhou Yang said, "In the virtual space, we have created 18 cities, where everyone can enjoy the same life services as in reality, and they can work and have fun here." As he spoke, the pavilion landed on a city. After years of development, a main city in the virtual space has become very large. The pavilion seemed to have turned on forced invisibility, wandering around the city at will, but no one could see it. Zhou Yang also began to introduce the situation of the virtual space, such as free creation, extreme entertainment functions, etc. Inal was surprised and said, "No wonder there are not many humans in the real world. It turns out that they have all entered the virtual world and work in the virtual world, and the specific work is handed over to robots, so as to solve the contradictions and conflicts between the increase in productivity and the expansion of the population, and it can also give full play to the scientific creativity of more people. It's amazing." Inal is a politician after all, and he saw the beauty of the virtual space at a glance. Zhou Yang nodded. The main function of the virtual space is to alleviate the problems such as unemployment, caused by the increase in productivity. At this point, Inal smiled bitterly and said, "You are really geniuses. You actually solved the problem in this way. I think we can learn from you." Seeing Zhou Yang looking at him curiously, Inal said, "We have also encountered the same problem. The productivity has developed rapidly, but the resulting unemployment craze has increased." Zhou Yang asked curiously, "Then how did you solve it?" Inal glanced at Hanmo and sighed, "We solved this problem through expansion and war." Chapter 438 Negotiation. Zhou Yang was shocked. This method can be described as simple and crude. Overdevelopment of productivity, material satisfaction, and not much labor force is needed. That is unemployment, which will lead to a series of social problems. At this time, if no suitable guidance method can be found, it may threaten the rule of the Oma civilization empire. Then the Oma civilization use the simplest and crudest method to launch wars, actively expand, consume production capacity with wars, obtain more territory, and thus guide more people to immigrate, expand, and develop, and even use wars to consume population. Zhou Yang suddenly understood why the Oma civilization was so militaristic. I'm afraid it was forced. For this point, Zhou Yang did not express any opinions. Then he took the two to visit the entertainment area. Various virtual games and real experiences also opened the eyes of Inal and the others. This continued until dinner that night, when the two reluctantly left the virtual space. The next day, the group continued to set off and headed for BJ. After arriving in BJ, Inal and the others made arrangements, and Zhou Yang also went to find the person in charge of Country Z to hold a meeting to discuss the first meeting the next day. It was mainly the Treaty of Alliance. The other members of the emergency committee also held a meeting via video. Zhou Yang said, "First of all, according to Millennium, the Oma civilization should be willing to form an alliance with us, and after these 2 days of contact, I feel that they came here with the idea of giving arms." "Arms?" Everyone frowned. Sin curled his lips and said, "Yes, these two guys look very friendly, but they are still very arrogant in their bones." Zhou Yang continued, "To give an example, it's like a rich relative who received an invitation from a country relative and came to the countryside. They are willing to help us, but they can't help but point fingers and be arrogant. This is Zhou Yang's biggest feeling after contacting Enel and the other two people in the past 2 days. It's normal to think about it. They left the Earth more than 60 million years ago and went to develop in outer space while humans are still nesting on the Earth. The key is that the Oma civilization is doing well outside with 3 star systems and a population of tens of billions. They dare to compete with the big brother. This time they return to Earth. It is like a rich relative returning home. Even if they pretend to be amiable, they still look down on their country relatives and their bones. Everyone frowned. Of course, it was not easy to feel despised. The person in charge of country Z smiled calmly and said, "The fact that they are willing to come has already explained a lot of problems, so we don't care about their attitude." Then, "Mr. Zhou, from what you said, the Oma people are willing to form an alliance with us." Zhou Yang nodded and said, "At least Millen said so, and I think it is credible." That's good. After all, they have developed for so many years, and as Mr. Zhou said, with a population of tens of billions and a territory as large as 3 solar systems, they are willing to form an alliance with us, which must be good for us. At least it can help us defend the Earth. The person in charge of country Z said. Scene agreed. Yes, didn't they bring 18 warships? They should be here to help us. Then, everyone began to discuss how to sign the alliance treaty and the agreed rights and obligations. There is a framework, which is roughly under what conditions to help. And first of all, a central premise was determined. That is, the attitude of human beings cannot be too low, which everyone agrees with. Human beings are not as strong as the Oma civilization, but they are not so weak that they cannot resist the Oma civilization. In the foreseeable future, super weapons and space jump technology will be completed, so human beings are not that weak. There is no need to put on an attitude of begging the Oma civilization. There are still some bottom lines that must be adhered to. At this time, Zhou Yang suddenly raised his hand and said, "I have an idea." When everyone looked at him, Zhou Yang said, "Yesterday I took Enel to experience the virtual space. I can see that he is very interested in this technology. I also asked about their situation. Maybe they need this technology more. I have a strong intuition that in the next negotiation, Enel may ask for this technology. So we can use this technology to exchange for some real core technology." Enel didn't say yes, but Zhou Yang is not a fool. From Enel's reaction, he has long seen that he likes virtual reality technology very much. So it is completely possible to use this technology as a condition to exchange for some really powerful technology. Because Zhou Yang felt that even if the Oma civilization would fund some technology, it would definitely not be particularly advanced technology. Everyone's eyes lit up, and the head of country Z said, "If that's the case, then we can take the initiative in the next negotiation." At this time, Scene hesitated and said, "Since virtual reality is a very powerful technology, do we need to give it up?" Zhou Yang said, "It's okay to give it up, but since they don't have it, we should really ask for some powerful technology. The Oma civilization is militaristic and has developed madly in military technology. The relevant technology must be stronger than human civilization. For example, the outer covering material used by their mecha can be liquidized to enhance defense. Zhu Chen and his team have not yet cracked it." The meeting lasted until very late. The next day, Zhou Yang, the head of country Z, and Scene attended the negotiation as representatives. After basic courtesy, everyone quickly got to the point. First, Enel expressed his willingness to form an alliance with humans, and also proposed to fund some technology and leave a fleet to help defend the Earth. These attitudes are consistent with what Millen said. Zhou Yang and the other two, of course, expressed their gratitude first. At this time, Enel said again, "Three of you, after visiting your human civilization these 2 days, I unexpectedly discovered that you have developed virtual reality technology, and I think this technology is also very helpful for the development of our Oma civilization. I wonder if you are willing to share this technology with us." Zhou Yang and the other two looked at each other and were secretly excited. As expected, Zhou Yang guessed right. Enel asked for virtual reality technology. Zhou Yang's acting was too bad, so Scene stepped in. He was surprised at first, and then said tactfully, "This virtual reality technology was developed by our team led by Mr. Zhou after many years, and at a huge cost. The whole process was extremely difficult, and it required basic internet access. At the same time, I don't know if this technology matches your technology. I'm afraid that, even if we want to share it, you won't be able to use it at that time. Ina looked at Zhou Yang and smiled calmly. Really? But I heard that this technology was only completed by you 2 years ago. It shouldn't be a huge cost and difficulty. Zhou Yang was stunned and suddenly thought that he could get information from Milin, and Inal could also get information from Milin. You know, Milin has been in the human world for a long time. This is a mistake. At least it's not possible to sell misery. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 439. Am I a tool? After Inal finished speaking, Hanemo next to him said with a straight face, 3 of you, we have come from dozens of light years, and are willing to help you, and provide you with precious science and technology. You should know that in the universe, science and technology are the most precious wealth of a civilization. Although the Earth is also our home planet and we originated from the same planet, we are actually 2 civilizations, so even if we don't help you, it's completely fine. Zhou Yang frowned again. Obviously, Hanemo is the role of the bad guy, and the meaning of these words is also very clear. If virtual reality technology is not given, there will be no assistance. Zhou Yang sighed inwardly. Sure enough, aliens are not easy to fool, especially since Inal is a politician. General Hanmo, please be patient. The head of country Z reacted immediately, calmed down his emotions, and then said, you have come from afar with such great sincerity, to fund our science and technology, and even left a fleet, to help us defend the Earth. If you need the technology of virtual reality, we are of course willing to share it with you, but you proposed it too suddenly. How about we pause for a while, so that we can discuss how to share this technology? Do you think it's okay? Inal and Hanmo looked at each other, and nodded with a smile. Zhou Yang glanced at the head of country Z and sighed secretly. Sure enough, political matters should be left to professionals. For example, the words of the head of country Z clearly expressed that, if you are willing to help us, we will consider sharing technology. This is considered to express our willingness to share, but how to share it still needs to be discussed in detail. And this discussion should not be discussed by country Z, but to give Inal and Hanmo time, to let them discuss what conditions to give. The negotiations stopped temporarily. Zhou Yang and the other 2 walked out. Zhou Yang smiled bitterly and said, sure enough, this kind of thing should be left to you. I feel that every word you say has a special meaning. If it were me, I would not be able to do it. The head of country Z and Scene looked at each other and laughed. The head of country Z said, it's just some skills, not worth mentioning. In my opinion, it's really powerful to speak with strength like you, Mr. Zhao. Just imagine, if our own technology is strong enough, there is no need to be so hypocritical. 10 minutes later, the negotiation continued. Inal smiled and said, after the break, I wonder if you had discussed how to share this technology. The head of country Z did not change his expression, but frowned slightly in his heart. Inal was beginning to pretend to be confused. Moreover, the head of country Z believed that Inal had already prepared the next routine. For example, if he said that he needed some technology to exchange, then Hanemo would probably say as a red face that we have already given you technology. Even if the human side objects and asks for more technology, Inal can also pick a few of the technologies they originally prepared to provide and exchange them with humans. In short, in the eyes of the head of country Z, the initial strategy of Inal must be to obtain virtual reality technology from humans without paying extra technology. So at this time, no matter how to answer, you will fall into a passive position. The head of country Z thought about it and looked at Zhou Yang, saying, Mr. Zhao, you mentioned to me before that the Oma civilization has a technology that is particularly powerful. I wonder what technology it is. Looking at the expression of the head of country Z, Zhou Yang's heart moved, and he understood what he meant. He pretended to be silent for a while and said, "You should be talking about the armor material of the Oma civilization mecha. Yes, it should be called mecha-alloy. Mr. Inal, do you know? Mecha-alloy." Inal frowned slightly. Hanemo said excitedly, "Impossible. Mecha technology is a unique technology of our Oma civilization, which was developed at a huge cost." The head of country Z immediately said, "I see. This is the same as our virtual reality technology, which was developed by Mr. Zhou leading the team day and night, and spending a lot of energy." Hanemo was stunned. Inal frowned a little tighter, but soon relaxed and smiled. 3. Virtual reality is just a civilian technology after all, while mecha-alloy is the key military secret technology of our Oma civilization. Scene smiled faintly. "I think that technology is not divided into civilian and military use. It mainly depends on whether it is really needed. Mr. Inal, don't you agree?" Inal smiled. "In fact, our demand for virtual reality technology is not as great as you think." Scene immediately said, "If that's the case, then we don't need to delay our negotiation of alliance because of such an unimportant little thing." In one sentence, virtual reality technology was said to be a trivial matter. Inal cursed secretly. Alliance was a strategy set by the higher-ups, which was just a formality. Virtual reality technology was the technology he mainly wanted to get. At this time, Inal also realized the difficulty of human civilization, and then he secretly glanced at Hanemo. Hanmo slammed the table and said, "We are willing to help you selflessly, but you dare to put forward conditions to us and ask for precious mecha-alloy technology. If that's the case, then there is no need for us to talk anymore. Administrator Inal, let's go." After saying that, he ran away. Inal was surprised, and his expression was a little ugly, and then he said, "I'm really sorry. I apologize to you on behalf of Hanmo. How about this? Today's negotiations end here first. I will go back and persuade Hanmo, and then we will continue tomorrow." "Of course." The person in charge of country Z said quickly. Several people stood up and Inal left. Zhou Yang frowned and said, "This Hanemo, is he really angry?" The person in charge of country Z laughed and said, "Of course, it's just a show, and it's too stiff." Scene nodded in agreement and sneered, "Poor acting." Zhou Yang laughed dumbly and asked, "What about the negotiation?" The person in charge of country Z smiled and said, "Don't worry, Mr. Zhou, I feel relieved after their commotion." "I think so. He is just a representative. He may just come here to convey the intention of their leader. So the alliance is basically a done deal, and virtual reality technology is just an accident. I now think that they are very interested in virtual reality technology and are almost determined to get it. Then it will be much easier to talk about it next." "Really?" Zhou Yang smiled bitterly. He couldn't see these things. The person in charge of country Z said, "Mr. Zhou, you don't have to show up next. In this way, we can suspend the negotiations at any time on the grounds that we don't understand the technology and take the initiative." Zhou Yang didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Has he become a tool? But not showing up is also in line with Zhou Yang's idea. In this kind of thing, his coming here is indeed a nuisance. Chapter 440, Alliance Negotiation. In the following time, Zhou Yang stayed in BJ, waiting for the result of the negotiation. However, Zhou Yang was not idle. The research and development of space jump and super weapons had entered the final stage. Zhou Yang had been in close communication with the research and development team, keeping an eye on the progress of research and development at any time. Time passed in a flash, and 2 days passed. On this day, Zhou Yang received a notice that the negotiation was over. Zhou Yang immediately found the person in charge of country Z and asked about the result of the negotiation. Basically in line with our expectations, they dispatched a fleet to help us defend the Earth, and at the same time, transferred related technologies free of charge. The person in charge of country Z said. For these related technologies, Inal gave a technical list with many categories. There are a total of 346 related technologies, involving all aspects of military research and development. It can be seen that the Oma civilization is really crazy about the development of military technology, and the livelihood technology is relatively backward. Among these technologies, the more important ones are the further upgrade of nuclear fusion, high-power particle thrusters, gravity traction technology, and more powerful laser cannon weapons. As for some other transmission designs, control system installations, electronic technology, chip technology, etc., it cannot be said that they are not important, but the importance is not as great and urgent as the previous ones. However, Zhou Yang could also see that the technologies shared by the Oma civilization should be relatively mature, with alternative technologies already available and on the verge of being eliminated. Moreover, for human civilization, these technologies can also be broken through in the foreseeable future. But overall, the technologies provided by the Oma civilization can at least save humans 3 to 5 years of research and development time. At this time is the most important. The technologies shared by the Oma civilization can be said to be a timely help. What about virtual reality technology? Zhou Yang asked again. The person in charge of Country Z smiled and said, we have talked about this for a long time, but in the end we still withstood the pressure. The Oma civilization agreed to use their mecha alloy technology in exchange for virtual reality technology. Okay. Zhou Yang looked excited. Materials are the most basic technology. Breakthroughs in materials can promote breakthroughs in many technologies. Mecha alloy not only has super metal properties, but also has the greatest characteristic. After being instantly powered on, it can make the metal liquid, which in disguise increases the material's impact resistance and other characteristics. If this technology is obtained, the Zhou can be upgraded again. Moreover, it can be used not only for mechas, but also for carrier-based aircraft and even warships, with a wide range of applications. That night, a grand celebration banquet was held, and Zhou Yang also attended. Mr. Zhao, let's not go home until we are drunk today. Inal spoke in awkward Chinese, patting Zhou Yang on the shoulder. Zhou Yang didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He didn't expect that the first Chinese sentence that Inal learned was this sentence. Okay. Zhou Yang nodded vigorously. Next, Inal stayed in BJ for another 2 days and handed over the relevant technology as agreed. At the same time, 18 warships of the Oma civilization located near Pluto also arrived on Earth and were temporarily stationed at the lunar base. There were a total of 18 warships. The warships of the Oma civilization are flat as a hole, with a total length of 2,800 meters and a U-shaped shape. The reason for this design is mainly because this warship is equipped with a progressive super laser cannon. This main gun is installed at the bottom of the U-shape. On the inner sides of the U-shape, there are 13-level electromagnetic amplification equipment, which can continuously amplify the laser cannon, thereby achieving amazing power and amazing power. In addition, 260 secondary guns were installed on both sides of the U-shaped structure, providing strong firepower. At the same time, each warship was equipped with 108 carrier-based aircraft. After the warships entered the lunar base, Zhou Yang went to the lunar base in the name of welcome. Li Xianshu was also accompanying him, and he slowly arrived at the lunar base on the Kunpeng. 18 huge warships were docked outside the semicircular lunar base. The Kunpeng could be seen before it completely landed. The Soma warship is not big, only half the size of our Pangu class. Li Xianshu looked at the Oma warship below through the porthole. This was the first time he saw an Oma warship. Zhou Yang smiled bitterly and said, it's small, but small doesn't mean weak. Sometimes, building a big ship doesn't mean strong. For example, our Pangu class ship is not advanced enough in many technologies, so it can only be built big. Their warships, although small, have a higher level of technology than ours. Without adequate technology and materials, many things can only be made bigger. Just like a mecha, it is easy to build a Xingqian, but the difficulty of building a Zhou is geometrically increased. Li Xianshu said, Mr. Zhao, we have just started, and we are already very powerful. To be honest, if you told me a few years ago that we could also have our own interstellar battleship, I would not believe it. The two chatted, and the Kunpeng also arrived at the lunar base. Originally, in addition to daily scientific research, the lunar base was mainly stationed by the 1st Division of the 1st Army of the Space Force. But at this time, in order to provide a better environment for the Oma people, all the soldiers of the 1st Division were relocated, and the lunar base was vacated for the Oma people to live in. There are 18 battleships, and the combat personnel of each battleship reached about 2,400 people. 18 battleships, that is, 43,200 people. So many people cannot be accommodated in a lunar base. Therefore, some camps around the lunar base were also vacated, but it was not enough. There is already a plan to build a new base for the Oma people to be stationed. The two entered the lunar base with their entourage. As soon as they walked to the gate of the base, they heard some noisy quarrels. What's going on? Li Xianshu's face changed slightly. Zhou Yang also hurried over. In front of the base gate, several soldiers in military uniforms were arguing with the Oma soldiers in black uniforms. The two sides could not communicate with each other, but it did not prevent them from arguing and cursing each other in words that the other party could not understand. Be quiet. Li Xianshu immediately stepped forward and stopped them loudly. The soldiers on the human side stopped immediately, and the Oma people slowly stopped making noises when they saw Zhou Yang and his group, but they still pointed and whispered to each other, and no one knew what they were saying. You, come here, what's going on? Li Xianshu pointed at a captain and asked. The captain hurriedly stepped forward, saluted Zhou Yang and the others, and then said, to reply to the commander, what happened is this. According to the order of the division headquarters, we are here to perform the guard mission to ensure that the aliens do not leave the lunar base without authorization, but these Oma people want to leave. After we persuaded them, they did not listen, and a dispute broke out. Our soldiers were kicked by them a few times. Did they fight again? Zhou Yang was slightly stunned. Chapter 441 Conflict. After thinking for a while, Zhou Yang asked, whose order did you receive to prevent the Oma people from going out? The captain said, it was an order from the division headquarters, but the specific order seems to have been issued by Commander Han. Commander Han is Han Zhenayang, the commander of the 1st Army of the Space Force. He was originally the commander of the 1st Division. Later, after the expansion, he was also promoted to commander. Li Xianshu frowned and said, what is Han Zhenayang doing? Isn't this creating contradictions? Then he pointed at the captain and said, contact your superiors and tell Han Zhenayang that I'm waiting for him here. Let him come to see me as soon as possible. The captain gritted his teeth and turned away. Zhou Yang waved his hand to stop Li Xianshu and said, the matter has not been clarified yet, don't be angry. Commander Han is also a meritorious person. I don't think he will issue such an order casually or have any misunderstandings. Li Xianshu nodded and was about to speak when he noticed a group of people coming over from the lunar base in front. The leader was a middle-aged man wearing a black military uniform with golden patterns on it. The middle-aged man was aggressive and his rank was not low. Zhou Yang did not hesitate and took the initiative to greet him. The Oma soldiers present saw the middle-aged man and hurriedly stood at attention and saluted. Soon, the middle-aged man came closer. His eyes fell on Zhou Yang and stepped forward and said, you must be Zhou Yang. He spoke in the Oma language, but he carried a translator, so Zhou Yang could understand. Hello, I'm Zhou Yang. Zhou Yang smiled and stretched out his hand. The middle-aged man did not shake hands with Zhou Yang, and his expression was extremely arrogant. Li Xianshu next to him flashed a sharp light in his eyes. Not many people could be so disrespectful to Zhou Yang. Zhou Yang smiled, took back his hand without caring, and said, you must be General Becky. The highest military commander of these 18 warships is a general named Becky, who is the commander of the fleet. In the common sense of Oma civilization, only generals can wear military uniforms with golden patterns. The middle-aged man nodded and said, yes, I'm Becky. Mr. Zhao, I know you. You are one of the highest leaders of mankind. Now I want to complain to you. Our soldiers have suffered unfair treatment on your side. Please give me an explanation. After a pause, Becky said sternly, you must understand that you begged us to help you, but you are not only ungrateful to us, but also hostile to us. If this is the case, then I think there is no need to help you at all. Li Xianshu frowned. Zhou Yang's heart skipped a beat, but his face did not react much. He still smiled and said, General Becky, I'm afraid there is some misunderstanding here. So, please give me some time to investigate it clearly. Don't worry, if it is our fault, I will definitely give you a satisfactory explanation. Inal and Handmo just left the day before yesterday, and the Oma warships just entered the lunar base yesterday. How could something happen today? Zhou Yang really felt a little incredible. Okay, I'll wait here and see what kind of explanation you can give me. Becky stood aside arrogantly. The whole process was extremely arrogant. Li Xianshu was furious and cursed in a low voice. What the hell is Han Zhenliang doing? 5 minutes later, Han Zhenliang appeared in front of Zhou Yang and the others in a hurry. Mr. Zhao, Minister Li. Han Zhenliang saluted. Li Xianshu was about to get angry when he saw Han Zhenliang, but was stopped by Zhou Yang. Zhou Yang shook hands with Han Zhenliang and said, Commander Han, I have heard of your name for a long time. Today I finally see you in person. You are indeed wise and powerful. Han Zhenliang was terrified. He glanced at Becky not far away and sighed, Mr. Zhao, don't be so polite. I know I made a mistake. Please punish me. I will accept any punishment. Zhou Yang frowned slightly, took Han Zhenliang away, and asked, tell me, what's the situation? Han Zhenliang stiffened his neck and seemed reluctant to speak. Li Xianshu glared and shouted, Mr. Zhao is asking you a question. Why don't you tell the truth? Han Zhenliang gritted his teeth and said, Mr. Zhao, this is what happened. Yesterday we received an order from the command center to vacate the base for the Oma people. As a result, during the evacuation, for some inexplicable reasons, a soldier had an argument with an Oma soldier, and then an Oma officer directly ordered our soldiers to be detained. 2 hours later, I took people to negotiate with them, and they handed the soldiers over to us. However, the soldiers Zhou and Mecha was detained by them. I was not happy at the time, so I negotiated with them sternly and asked them to return the Mecha. At first, they ignored us. It was 3 hours later that an officer came out and returned the Zhou to us last night. Mr. Zhao, they detained our Zhou for 5 hours. What do you think they did during these 5 hours? They must have studied the Zhou. I asked the maintenance technician to check it, and the Zhou they brought back had signs of disassembly. And I also asked the soldier. The cause was that when he was moving things, he happened to meet some Oma soldiers. He looked at them a few more times, and then those Oma soldiers rushed over and pushed him, and finally a conflict broke out. After that, I issued an order from the military to let the Oma people stay in the lunar base and not go out at will. Mr. Zhao, I admit that I issued this order, partly because I wanted to retaliate against the Oma people, so I was wrong. Please punish me. Li Xianshu's face changed slightly, and he said in surprise, why did he detain our Mecha and dismantle it? Did he want to secretly study our Mecha? Zhou Yang also frowned. Judging from Han Zhenliang's statement, the Oma people were indeed looking for trouble on purpose, taking the opportunity to spy on the intentions of the Zhou and Mecha. But in such a situation, how should this matter be handled? It is unwise to question the Oma people. They have just started to cooperate. If things get awkward, how can they work together in the future? After thinking about it, Zhou Yang said, okay, Commander Han, you are wrong in this matter. The mistake is that you did not report to the command center in the first time and handled it privately. Therefore, I decided to give you a demerit and punish you. At the same time, you have to write a profound self-criticism. Do you have any objection? Han Zhenliang saluted with a dark face. I accept the punishment. Zhou Yang nodded, then turned and walked towards Becky. General Becky, I have already inquired about what happened. There was a conflict between our soldiers and your soldiers. We were at fault first. You came from afar and helped us selflessly, but such a thing happened. I'm deeply sorry. But don't worry, I have already severely punished the officers involved. I hope that this matter can be resolved from a big matter to a small one and let it pass. Zhou Yang said with a smile. Chapter 442 Super Weapon completed. Becky stared at Zhou Yang with eagle-like eyes, and the next moment, she laughed. You are a very smart person. Becky said. Zhou Yang frowned slightly. It was more like a mockery than a compliment. She said Zhou Yang was sensible, but Zhou Yang was no longer in the age of being easily angered. He could not be as good as Seen, a veteran politician who could swallow his anger. He could also keep his emotions to himself. It was obvious that the Oma people had ulterior motives in this matter. It was not an exaggeration to say that they were deliberately looking for trouble, but for the sake of the overall situation, Zhou Yang just injured it temporarily. Then can this matter just be over? Zhou Yang asked. Becky nodded and said, that's it for this matter, but I have another request. Oh, please go ahead. Zhou Yang said. Becky said, this place is too desolate, without any entertainment facilities. Our soldiers have come from afar, and the Earth is also our home planet, so I hope we can be stationed on Earth, in your most prosperous city. Give us an area for us to live and live. At the same time, there are some things I have to explain in advance. That is, we are different civilizations from you humans after all. We use different laws, and have different living habits, so I need our soldiers not to be bound by your human laws. Of course, don't worry, I will try my best to restrain my soldiers, and won't let them disturb you. Zhou Yang frowned for a full 10 seconds, before smiling and asking, then what about your warships? If you are stationed on Earth, then if you encounter an enemy attack, you will set out from Earth, and come to the moon to take a warship. I'm afraid it will be too late. Becky said with a nonchalant look. That's simple. Why don't we let our warships be stationed on Earth as well? Why? Do you think it's inappropriate? You have to understand that we are here to help you, but we don't intend to have any intentions towards you. Zhou Yang cursed in his heart, but after thinking about it, he nodded and said, okay, I will arrange the details as soon as possible. Very good. Becky laughed and said, you are a smart man. It is much more pleasant to communicate with you. Zhou Yang forced a smile and said, by the way, General Becky, I also have a request. I want to visit your warships. I wonder if it is possible. Becky glanced at Zhou Yang, shook her head without hesitation, and said, I'm sorry, our warships are highly military secrets and outsiders are not allowed to visit. I personally am willing to give you a visit, but if the consulate knows about it, I will go to a military court. Zhou Yang's expression froze for a moment, and he smiled. Okay, I'm sorry for being presumptuous. Becky straightened his military uniform and said, then arrange it, as soon as possible. I heard that your entertainment life on Earth is very rich. I can't wait. After that, he turned and left with a group of armor soldiers. After the group of people left, Li Xianshu came to Zhou Yang and cursed with a gloomy expression. Damn, what kind of shit is this? They still want to be stationed on Earth. We have allocated a place for them, and they are not bound by our laws. Damn it, isn't this darn Jianmin Lane? Zhou Yang's expression instantly became extremely gloomy. Inal and Handmo are probably politicians. When they communicate, although they are arrogant in their bones, they will not show it. And Becky in front of him is undisguised and arrogant. Taking a deep breath, Zhou Yang suppressed his anger and said in a deep voice, forget it, we are still in the cooperation period, and we are not as skilled as others. We should be patient if we can. You should also tell them to try to have less conflicts with them. They can't keep finding faults. Li Xianshu was very frustrated, but he still nodded. Li Xianshu hasn't been so frustrated for many years. Zhou Yang was also angry, but what could he do? If he turned against them, he would not only provoke an enemy of dissident civilization, but also another enemy. A little impatience will ruin a big plan. Now the situation is critical, so we can only swallow our anger. Technology. Technology is the foundation. Zhou Yang felt more and more that in this deep space of the universe that believes in the law of the jungle, strength is the foundation for a civilization to stand up straight. Next, Zhou Yang did not stay in the moon base for long and returned directly to the Earth, devoting himself to the research and development of super weapons and space jump technology. And Becky, in accordance with his request, was preparing to set aside an area in BJ for them to be stationed. But when the emergency committee met, Sin suddenly proposed that it would be better to put these Oma people in their country. Zhou Yang was annoyed by these Oma people from the bottom of his heart, and when he saw Sin propose this idea, how could he not agree? At that moment, the emergency committee decided to set aside an area in New York, M country, for the Oma people to be stationed. Time passed quickly, and it was June 2nd. At the research institute, Zhou Yang looked at the huge device in front of him with a diameter of 100 meters, which looked like a pyramid, and his heart was also surging. The super weapon is finally completed. Inside the device, with the star core as the energy core, a super large energy generator was built using quantum entanglement, which can output a huge amount of energy to complete the excitation. Yi Rongming and Qinanmin were next to Zhou Yang. Although they looked much more haggard, they were also very excited. Mr. Zhao, do you want to test fire? Yi Rongming asked. Qinanmin was shocked and said quickly, Old Yi, you are confused. How can you test fire this thing? According to our speculation, one shot can destroy even a planet. What, do you want to destroy the Earth? Yi Rongming laughed dryly and said helplessly, what should we do? It has been made, but such a complex system. Any link has problems. Don't use it when the time comes, and it will misfire at the critical moment. That would be funny. Zhou Yang pondered for a moment, gritted his teeth and said, try. Why not try? The two were shocked. Since Zhou Yang said to try, then try. The key is how to try. Zhou Yang said, find a planet and fire a shot to test it. If you don't test the power, you will never know how powerful this thing is. Planet? Yi Rongming shuddered and said, Mr. Zhao, you don't want to try it in the solar system, do you? There are only a few planets in the solar system. If they are really destroyed, they will be gone. Qin and Min also hurriedly said, yes, if we bombard the planets in the solar system, the loss of any planet will cause the orbit of the planet to change. Don't let it affect our Earth at that time, that would be bad. Zhou Yang thought about it, and it was true. Just now, Zhou Yang was thinking about firing a shot at the nearest one, either Venus or Mercury, to directly test the power of this super weapon. But after Qin and Min said this, Zhou Yang realized that the 9 planets were moving according to the established orbits, and such a stable structure had been formed for billions of years. If a planet was suddenly missing, the change in gravity would definitely be a disaster, and would have a huge impact on the Earth. Chapter 443 Space Jump Technology completed. After thinking for a while, Zhou Yang said, then don't try it for now. There is no way to try it. After the space jump technology is completed, go to the outer solar system to try it. Like the Kuiper belt, there are asteroids everywhere. Some planets are not much smaller than the Earth. Just pick one, and it will not affect the solar system if it explodes. Yi Rongming nodded and asked curiously, Mr. Zhao, when will the space jump device be completed? The space jump device is definitely the largest research and development project of the Academy of Sciences. Almost all scientists from all over the world have participated in it, and it has lasted for almost half a year. The cost of scientific research is so high that it is impossible to calculate. Zhou Yang smiled and said, it's almost there, very soon. The space jump has also reached the final stage, and it is just a matter of finishing touches. Okay, I will arrange the next things. You two have worked so hard for so long, I will give you a holiday, and have a good rest. Zhou Yang said. This super weapon is intended to be installed on the number 1 ship. In fact, there are some subtle differences in structure between the number 1 ship and the subsequent warships. For example, the position of the front main gun installed at the front of the warship is actually larger than that of other warships. The purpose is to reserve space for the installation of super weapons later. The first ship was completed at the Research Institute, and the subsequent warships were completed at the Taihang Mountain factory, and the structure has been modified. The reason why only one ship was modified was that there was only one star core and only one super weapon could be made. Zhou Yang immediately contacted the command center and asked the first ship to return to the Research Institute for modification and upgrading. The whole process takes about 10 days. On the other hand, the space jump was really fast, as Zhou Yang said. June 12th can be said to be a day that will be recorded in human history forever. The prototype of the space jump was finally made. It is similar to the space jump device of Hirona, but its size is much larger. It is a cone barrel with a height of 20 meters. It is also encapsulated with modified single crystal silicon. After encapsulation, it is naturally impossible to carry out maintenance, and encapsulation is not just a means to prevent technology leaks, as Zhou Yang thought at the beginning. Of course, there must be part of the reason to prevent technology leaks, but the real reason is to stabilize the internal structure, because this is a space jump, and any damage to the device will cause unpredictable consequences, and it may be directly torn apart by the space int layer. This one-time packaging technology alone was tested no less than 200 times before it finally met the process requirements. Inside the device, the structure of the black and white spheres rotating relative to each other is the same as the space jump device of Hirona. It is always easier to cross the river by following the footsteps of predecessors, and Zhou Yang does not need to be special. Just because the number 1 ship is here, install it directly on the ship. Zhou Yang ordered. Each warship has a pre-installed space jump device, which is also extremely easy to install. The entire installation process took only 3 days. The number 1 ship has completely upgraded its cannons and has the ability to jump in space. It is also the only special warship among many warships that has super weapons. Mr. Zhou, how powerful do you think this super weapon is? In the assembly dock of the warship, Chen Fengqiao looked at the front of the warship and the location of the super weapon happily and asked curiously. Zhou Yang said, since it is a super weapon, at full power, I think it will be no problem to destroy the earth with one shot. Hiss, is it so powerful? Chen Fengqiao took a breath. Li Xianshu and Wang Muzhao beside him had similar expressions. Zhou Yang wanted to build a super weapon, but he never said how powerful this super weapon was. Now we know that it is so powerful. Zhou Yang said, this Star Destroyer cannon needs to be charged for 120 seconds to fire at full power. At the same time, you can choose to fire at half power, 1/4 power, and 1/8 power, and the charging time will be shorter. Chen Fengqiao repeated it and memorized it carefully. Li Xianshu sighed, in this way, we really have a big killer. Wang Muzhao smiled and said, in my opinion, the real big killer is still the space jump device. With this thing, we will not have to watch the enemy escape without being able to chase them last time. Zhou Yang nodded. The last battle really taught him a profound lesson. As for the space jump device, we will focus on production next and try to equip all our warships with space jump devices. At the same time, the Academy of Sciences is also conducting miniaturization research and strive to enable carrier-based aircraft to have low-power space jump devices. In fact, I think we can try to develop some small warships, about 1000 meters in length, with higher flexibility, and can deal with some small situations. Interstellar battleships must be developed in multiple models and applied to different environments. For example, if the enemy only has a small battleship, we can't send out the Pangu class battleship. The Pangu class battleship is equivalent to an aircraft carrier, and an aircraft carrier also needs frigates, destroyers, etc. Wang Muzhao nodded and said, Mr. Zhou is right. I have asked the Military Science and Technology Research and Development Department to conduct preliminary research on this idea, and there should be results soon. As the chief military officer, Wang Muzhao must have thought of what Zhou Yang could think of. By the way, Mr. Zhou, do you think it is necessary for us to build a special warship with a main defense nature, which will do nothing but protect our number 1 ship? Because we only have one set of super weapons. If the number 1 ship is damaged, and the super weapon is also damaged, the loss will be huge. Wang Muzhao said again. Zhou Yang smiled and said, it seems that we have the same idea again. I have been thinking about this problem these days. My initial idea is that it is not realistic to install multiple energy shields on ship number 1, because if we do this, there will be too many changes to the internal structure. The last battle with the Desert Fleet gave me an inspiration. We can use other warships as shields to cover ship number 1. For example, we can specially develop some small warships that are small, flexible, and fast. The weapon system is optional, and we can only install a large energy shield system. When encountering the enemy, use multiple such small warships, turn on the energy shield, and completely block ship number 1. If you really encounter an irresistible situation, you can also sacrifice the defense ship to create a space jump opportunity for ship number 1. In the last war, the Desert Fleet also set up such a Dragon Gate formation to cover the evacuation of their warships. Nowadays, there is only one set of super weapons, like a treasure, and it is never too careful. Wang Muzhao nodded and said, this is a good idea. We can build a batch of warships, and even use Sunman ships. They can be connected to the control system of the number 1 warship and act at the same time as the number 1 warship, and adjust their posture at any time to defend against the enemy. Chapter 444, First Space Jump. Zhou Yang nodded and said with a smile, that's settled. Our next task is very simple, which is to build our own interstellar fleet with all our strength and have the power to protect the Earth. Everyone nodded. Chen Fengqiao said, Mr. Zhou, should we start the battleship and make a space jump to try it out? The number 1 ship has been modified, and the combat personnel of the battleship have not been disbanded. They are stationed in the nearby military camp and can set sail at any time. Zhou Yang and several people looked at each other, and it was obvious that they were all eager to try. Okay, what's wrong with this? It's just right. Let's try the power of super weapons. Chen Finkyo hurriedly said, then I will let my subordinates prepare now. Half an hour later, all the combat personnel boarded the ship and prepared to set sail. Mr. Zhao, please. Li Xianshu made a gesture of invitation. Everyone looked at Zhou Yang. It can be said that the completion of this battleship was entirely due to Zhou Yang, and only Zhou Yang was qualified to be the first to board the battleship. You guys, why are you being so polite? Come on up. Zhou Yang said with a smile, calling everyone to board the ship. Not only Li Xianshu and others, but also the main researchers of the institute, as long as they are free and willing to come, can board the ship. They also want to see the space jump device they developed by themselves start for the first time. Everyone boarded the ship. Zhou Yang and Li Xianshu and others came to the bridge together. Zhou Yang made way and said, Comrade Captain, don't be polite, please. Chen Finkyo suppressed his excitement, came to the command position of the bridge, took a deep breath, and said loudly, perform the last self-check of the system. Many staff members immediately got busy. The weapon system is normal. The energy shield system is normal. The space jump device is connected normally. The super weapon is operating normally. All systems are normal. While installing the super weapon, the number 1 ship also carried out routine maintenance. Take off. Chen Finkyo was not hypocritical and directly ordered to set sail. The thrusters started, and the number 1 ship slowly took off. Soon, the number 1 ship reached the synchronous orbit. Chen Finkyo glanced at Zhou Yang, and when he saw Zhou Yang nodded slightly, he ordered, measure and calculate the target's area. Space jumps require coordinate points. This coordinate point is certainly not a planet a few kilometers to your right, or 2 stars above your head. The universe moves at any time and anywhere. Even a galaxy as large as the Milky Way is also revolving around the center of the universe. It is simply not feasible to use a planet as a reference. The coordinate point here is the presentation of a specific location in 4-dimensional space. Zhou Yang tentatively calls the 4-dimensional space the time dimension. Just like the interpretation of the movie Interstellar, the 4-dimensional space is composed of lines. The activation of each intersecting line will have a certain impact on the 3-dimensional real space. This line is actually more accurately described as a string. String theory is also an important branch of modern physics. Its basic theory is that the universe is composed of strings instead of various particles. So far, string theory has not been scientifically confirmed, but Zhou Yang feels that if it is switched to 4-dimensional space, string theory will be much easier to understand. With strings, the positions where different strings intersect are equivalent to coordinate points, forming coordinate points in the real universe that will not change due to changes in the 3-dimensional real world. After determining the basic concept of coordinate points, the next step is how to detect coordinate points, which can be easily accomplished by grabbing dark matter. If you know the clear coordinate points, you can make space jumps with a purpose. What if you don't know the coordinate points? You can also make space jumps, but the purpose is much worse. The specific method is to use the existing coordinate points as a benchmark to detect and locate the space distance, such as how far 100 million kilometers will appear in 4-dimensional space, and use a benchmark unit to infer the coordinate points. After the transmission channel experiment was completed, Zhou Yang had people measure this work, thus forming a set of benchmark models, which can jump directly in a certain direction after measurement. There will be a certain deviation, but the deviation will not be too large, and is still within an acceptable range. However, the most appropriate method is to determine the coordinate points, combine them with the actual situation, and use a large number of jumps and coordinate points to finally form a coordinate point map and draw a star map. The intelligent program of Faulkman's warship actually recorded the star map, otherwise Faulkman and his men would not have been able to fight north and south and wander in the universe. However, their star map has its own unique coding method, which is connected to the space jump device of Hirona. In other words, Hirona himself used their space jump device to create a set of benchmark modes. Different devices must have different positioning methods. Hirona also encrypted this benchmark mode, which cannot be cracked, so the star map on Faulkman's warship is useless. This time, the jump target is the Kuiper belt, near Pluto. The Kuiper belt is an area outside Neptune, close to the ecliptic plane, where a large number of celestial bodies gather. This area is full of a large number of asteroids. Pluto is one of the larger ones. The entire Kuiper belt, like the halo of Jupiter, wraps around the core planets of the solar system, which is actually a kind of protection for the solar system. Here, finding a larger planet and trying the power of super weapons is the purpose of this trip. With the assistance of the intelligence system, the surveying and mapping is completed. Start the space jump device. Chen Finkyo ordered again. The warship began to accelerate, and the space jump device also started. 20 seconds later, through the porthole of the bridge, it can be seen that in front of the warship, a gap was torn by a hidden force. The gap was deep and bottomless, and the edge of the gap was emitting light. Zhou Yang looked at it carefully and vaguely found that these torn edges showed a multi-layer structure, as if the space was overlapping layer by layer. And if you look closely, you will find that the edges of these gaps are not smooth and complete, but jagged, but not normal jagged, but like the regular hexagon of the honeycomb structure, with high and low protrusions forming a jagged structure. For a moment, Zhou Yang was a little dazzled, and the secrets of the deep space of the universe were slowly unfolding to him. The next moment, the warship drilled into the torn gap. The moment the warship completely entered the gap, the torn gap disappeared instantly. As for the interior of the warship, from Zhou Yang's side, there was a stream of light outside the portholes, and it felt like the warship was traveling quickly through a space-time channel, even faster than light, so the light fell behind it, forming a sense of double images caused by the dragging of light. Chapter 445 Interstellar Colonization. After about 3 seconds, the front suddenly went dark and the passage came to an end. The warship seemed to be squeezed out of the passage. However, the whole process did not feel a great impact, and the crowd did not feel much. But looking around, they found that they had come to an unfamiliar area. Quickly locate and see where we are. Chen Finkyo asked hurriedly. The holographic projection under the bridge immediately showed the location of ship number 1. The entire solar system, under the monitoring of the Deep Space Detection System. The destination of the jump is also within the monitoring range. If there is no deviation in the space jump, it can be located immediately. In the holographic projection of the solar system, the location of ship number 1 is marked, which is located at the edge of the inner ring of the Kuiper belt. Success. Cheers broke out at the scene. Not only many staff members, but also a large number of R&D personnel were excited. Mr. Zhao, we succeeded. Li Xianshu said excitedly. Zhou Yang nodded vigorously, and his heart was also excited. After a while, everyone calmed down. Chen Finkyo immediately said, determine the coordinate points, mark them, and then start the detector to search for the target. The warship's detection system started up and began to scan the surrounding starfields, cooperating with the deep space detection system to map and mark. The target this time is Yanshengxing, or Cherenai, a satellite of Pluto. It is also the largest star in the Kuiper belt discovered by humans. Its diameter is almost the same as Pluto. However, since Yanshengxing is not a gas planet like Pluto, its weight is more than 10 times that of Pluto. It is easy to determine the location of Yanshengxing by determining the location of Pluto. Not long after, the detection system discovered Yanshengxing, which is 4.97 million kilometers away from the current number 1 ship. This distance is already very close, and the warship can arrive quickly at full speed. Determine the target, and go to Yanshengxing. The warship slowly turned around, and began to accelerate to Yanshengxing. Around, the sun's light has dimmed a little, but it is not completely dark. Asteroids of different sizes can be seen everywhere, hitting the energy shield of the battleship, and being ruthlessly bounced off. It will take some time to arrive. Zhou Yang thought about it, walked towards Li Xianshu, and then sat down at the resting position behind the bridge. Mr. Zhao, is there anything? Li Xianshu asked. Zhou Yang nodded and said, I plan to start a plan in the near future, a plan to colonize planets, so I want to ask you if there are enough resources to start this plan without affecting our military construction plan. Mr. Zhao, are you talking about interstellar colonization? Li Xianshu took a breath and widened his eyes in shock. It hasn't happened yet, and Zhou Yang is actually considering starting interstellar colonization. Zhou Yang nodded and said, yes, it's interstellar colonization. Don't get excited. We have now completed the space jump technology. Interstellar colonization is nothing. Li Xianshu thought so too. Before there was no space jump technology, it was extremely difficult to easily reach a distance of tens or hundreds of light years, even tens of billions of kilometers. But it is different now. Even if the distance is far, it can be easily reached with the help of space jump technology. But why do we want to colonize the stars? Li Xianshu asked in confusion. How can Zhou Yang say that I'm doing it to complete the system task? Moreover, it is not tenable to simply obtain resources. There should be many resource planets in the solar system, as long as we explore them carefully. Let's not talk about anything else. On Mars, the resources that exist on Earth are basically also available on Mars. So after thinking about it, Zhou Yang said, although we have super weapons and space jump technology, we are facing a powerful civilization after all, so we can't help but consider what if we fail. Yes, we have formed an alliance with the Oma civilization, but to be frank, the Oma civilization is already overwhelmed. In an emergency, do you think they will help us with all their strength? I'm afraid not. Li Xianshu nodded solemnly. As the saying goes, it is better to rely on yourself than to rely on others. Zhou Yang continued, we are responsible for the continuation of the entire human civilization, and we have to think more deeply and comprehensively. If we fail, we can only implement the evacuation plan. So where to evacuate to? Interstellar wandering? Definitely not. We need to find a planet suitable for survival and continue our civilization. So I want to launch such a plan and choose a possible habitable planet for exploration to prepare for our evacuation. Of course, if it is not needed, that would be the best. Li Xianshu also understood and said, Mr. Zhao, since you said so, then there must be no problem on my side. Even if there is a problem, I will work hard to make it so. Zhou Yang breathed a sigh of relief. It's easy to find an excuse. Li Xianshu asked again, Mr. Zhao, do you have a target now? Zhou Yang nodded and said, the nearest planet to us that may be habitable is Proxima b, which is only 4.2 light years away from us. Li Xianshu's eyes lit up and said, I seem to have read relevant news reports and know about Proxima b. Okay, you know more about this than I do. Just arrange it directly. I will obey and support you. As he spoke, the number 1 warship also approached Yanshan Star. The warship stopped at a distance of 10,000 kilometers from Yanshan Star. Zhou Yang also stood up and came to Chenfinkyo. Through the porthole, you can see the huge black planet in front of you. Yanshan Star. Chenfinkyo looked at Zhou Yang and said, Mr. Zhao, let's start. Zhou Yang nodded and said, don't use full power, try a quarter of the power first. Compared with the Earth, Yanshan Star is still too small, and the energy of the star core is not infinite. It's better to save a little. Chenfinkyo nodded, and immediately ordered the activation of the super weapon. At 1/4 the power, it only takes 30 seconds for this Star Destroyer cannon to charge. If you look from the outside, a huge laser cannon launcher is sticking out from the top of the number 1 battleship, and then the energy begins to accumulate. As time goes by, the accumulated energy is as dazzling as a star. The super weapon is buffered, and the countdown to launch is over. 3, 2, 1, fire. The next moment, with the battleship shaking slightly, the porthole opposite the bridge was already filled with dazzling light. Zhou Yang squinted his eyes and saw a thick laser beam shooting out and instantly hitting the opposite Yanshengxing. It can be clearly seen that after the laser beam hit Yanshengxing, rays of light shone from the star body of Yanshengxing, as if the entire planet was cracked. The next moment, there was a silent explosion, and the huge Yanshengxing in front of him actually exploded directly. Such a huge planet exploded in front of everyone, and the impact also shocked everyone present. Super weapon, worthy of the name. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 446 must be handed over to us for trial. Everyone was deeply shocked. Is this a super weapon? It's so terrifying. Yes, such a big planet was disintegrated by a single shot. And this is only a quarter of the power. If it was full power, the power would be 4 times the current power. This was the first time that humans had seen the power of a super weapon. Zhou Yang was shocked, but more of a fear. He even felt like he had just seen the power of nuclear bombs for the first time in the 1940s and 1950s. It was as if a new world had been opened up. Only then did he know that there were such powerful bombs in the world, and how insignificant humans were under such a weapon that could destroy the world. There were more than 1,700 civilizations in the entire Milky Way. Zhou Yang didn't know how many civilizations had super weapons, but he couldn't help feeling fear in his heart. Humans, or any civilization or creature, have an endless pursuit of power. Once they created a super weapon, they would work hard to create a more terrifying weapon. It was nothing to destroy a planet with a single shot. They would not be satisfied if they could destroy an entire galaxy, the entire Milky Way, or even the entire universe with a single shot. And now humans are facing only a Decidine civilization, which is not a strong civilization among the second level civilizations. What should we do if we encounter a more powerful civilization in the future? The scattered planetary fragments collided randomly in the Kuiper belt. There were huge fragments as big as a city that collided and were bounced off by the energy shield. Let's go back to Earth, Zhou Yang said. Chen Fengqiu nodded. The warship began to accelerate and then started the space jump again. A few seconds later, the warship had returned to Earth's orbit. This feeling of traveling through billions of kilometers in an instant was like mastering the power of God. Mr. Zhao, this super weapon, can't it be copied? Wan Muzhao couldn't help asking. One super weapon is really not enough. Zhou Yang shook his head and said, it's difficult. To make super weapons, star cores are needed, and star cores are too rare. Of course, it doesn't mean that star cores are necessary to make super weapons. Star cores are just a material for making super weapons. There are other ways to make super weapons. Zhou Yang thought of the rewards of the main line of the system, colonizing a planet, and rewarding technical information of the Dyson sphere. Dyson sphere, a concept proposed a long time ago, uses the energy of an entire star to provide unlimited energy for civilization. However, the Dyson sphere plan proposed by that guy still seems unrealistic, and the solution given by the system may be more practical and have a higher technological content. If there is a way to directly extract the power of a star, then perhaps more super weapons can be made. This is just Zhou Yang's guess, but he thinks that colonizing Proxima B may really have to be put on the agenda. The battleship began to return, and at this time, Li Xianshu's cell phone suddenly rang, and then he walked aside to answer it. After a while, Li Xianshu walked back with a serious expression and gave Zhou Yang a look. Zhou Yang's heart sank, and he walked forward. When the two came to the rest area, Zhou Yang asked, is there an accident? Li Xianshu nodded and said, it's the Oma people. There? Zhou Yang's heart skipped a beat. The last time they met at the lunar base, Zhou Yang had already seen that Becky was not a quiet guy. He said angrily, didn't we agree to his request and let him stay on Earth? What did they do again? Li Xianshu told the story in a deep voice. After the lunar conflict, the emergency committee agreed to Becky's request to let him stay on Earth, and then Sin took the initiative to propose that aliens stay in their country. Zhou Yang agreed, and afterwards Sin allocated an area for the Oma people in the suburbs of New York for their warships to stay. As for what happened afterwards, Zhou Yang didn't care about it anymore. Now I know that Sin not only did not control the communication between humans and the Oma people, but even indulged the actions of the Oma people. Let the Oma people go in and out of the M country, and even Sin himself often invited Becky and other senior Oma fleet officials to participate in dances and so on. Finally, just 2 days ago, something went wrong. Several military chiefs of the Oma fleet were invited to a dance party held by a hotel association. Afterwards, a deputy captain of an Oma warship fell in love with a woman at the dance party that day. If it was just pursuit, it would be fine. It was consensual. Zhou Yang didn't bother to care about this kind of cross-species mess, but this deputy captain didn't know whether it was his nature or not. He actually sent his soldiers to the woman's home and wanted to take the woman away. These soldiers went to the other party's home and had a conflict with the other party. They killed the woman's parents and the security personnel in the villa on the spot, a total of 7 people. Then they forcibly took the woman back to the Oma's base. After the incident, the New York police reported it immediately, and then Scene's government went to ask for people, but what they got back was a corpse. So far, 8 lives. What did Scene do? Zhou Yang asked. Li Xianshu said in a deep voice. Scene and Becky talked once, but Becky refused to hand over the deputy captain and the 3 soldiers who committed the crime on the grounds that their people on Earth are not subject to human laws. Now Scene is trying to downplay the impact of this incident for the time being, but the rich man who was killed is not only a local New York rich man, but also a New York City councilor, so this matter was quickly exposed and had a huge impact. Now the news has spread all over the world, not only in the United States, but also in many other countries, and in the United States, demonstrations have broken out, asking the government to punish the murderer. Zhou Yang slapped the armrest angrily, took out his mobile phone, and said, Fuxi, contact Scene for me. Li Xianshu's face changed slightly, and he hurriedly stood up and moved aside. Soon, Scene answered the phone, looking a little tired. Mr. Zhao. Scene greeted him and smiled bitterly. It seems that you also know about this matter. Zhou Yang nodded and asked, have you held a meeting to discuss this matter? He was talking about several people in the emergency committee. Scene nodded and said, we met early this morning, but we haven't reached a consensus yet. After a pause, Scene asked, Mr. Zhao, what do you think? Zhou Yang said without hesitation, yes, we have formed an alliance with the Oma civilization, but we are just an alliance. It does not mean that we are their subordinates, nor does it mean that they are our masters. On Earth, our human civilization is the real master. They have come from afar, and we welcome them to be our guests, but this does not mean that they can do whatever they want on Earth. This matter must be dealt with seriously. In my opinion, there is no room for maneuver. They must hand over the murderer to us for trial. Chapter 447 Bottom Line. Some things really have a bottom line. The reason why the bottom line is the bottom line is that it is a red line that must not be crossed. For example, the law, such as the sovereignty and dignity of the country. And now, what the Oma people are doing is trampling on the sovereignty and dignity of human civilization, and they really regard themselves as the ancestors and masters of mankind. This kind of thing must not be allowed to happen. If anyone crosses the red line, he will have to pay the price. There was a little friction and conflict on the moon before, and Becky made some excessive demands, but Zhou Yang felt that the problem was not big and could be tolerated. But now, wantonly killing Earthlings and refusing to hand over the murderer, this kind of behavior, how could Zhou Yang indulge it? Scene's face changed slightly, and he said anxiously, Mr. Zhao, what if this angers the Oma people, and they leave, and don't help us? After the meeting of the emergency committee, the heads of Z country and E country had the same idea as Zhou Yang, that the Oma people must hand over the murderer no matter what, but the heads of Y country and F country still felt that from the overall situation, this matter could be downplayed as much as possible, so as not to affect the alliance between the two civilizations. Scene was also worried about this. What if they don't help us? Zhou Yang raised his voice a little and said, when they were not there, we faced crisis after crisis. With our brave soldiers, we also defeated the enemy. I still say that, if they are willing to help us, we welcome it. We will repay a drop of water with a spring, but this does not mean that they can act recklessly and trample on our laws at will. That's right, the Earth is backward in technology. Facing a strong enemy, it can only fight for its life. Zhou Yang still remembers that when humans first faced a threat from space, facing Faulkman's battleship, more than 100 brave soldiers won the victory at the cost of their lives. But the Earth is developing, Zhou Yang is working hard, and all scientists in the world are working hard to develop weapons, so that one day, humans can stand up straight and have weapons to drive away invaders and protect themselves. Without the help of the Oma people, humans will not admit defeat and will rely on their own efforts to protect their civilization. At this point, Zhou Yang said, Scene, this matter is not your country M's internal affairs, it is the affairs of the entire human civilization. Later, I will discuss with other people in the emergency committee and make a final decision. Please execute all the orders of the emergency committee. After that, Zhou Yang hung up the call directly. Scene wanted to smooth things over, but Zhou Yang was unwilling. If you cross the bottom line, you will have to pay a price. As for whether Scene agrees or not, it doesn't matter at all. Give you face, call you the president of country M, and say that you are a member of the emergency committee. If you don't give you face, you are nothing. The emergency committee is still in charge of country Z. In other words, the Earth and human civilization are still in charge of country Z. Zhou Yang immediately connected to the video of the head of country Z and expressed his thoughts. Yes, I also know about the moon base. Small conflicts are fine, but this kind of wanton trampling of our laws must not be allowed to happen. As for all the consequences that will happen later, we are willing to bear them. Even if there is one more enemy, we will not hesitate to be enemies with the Oma people, the head of country Z said in a deep voice. Zhou Yang nodded. This is a real leader. Seen as a fence sitter, a speculative politician. Mr. Zhou, I heard that you went to test the super weapon. It should have been successful by now. The person in charge of country Z said with a smile. Zhou Yang understood what the person in charge of country Z meant with just one sentence. Nodding with a smile, Zhou Yang said, very successful. The person in charge of country Z nodded and said, I will take care of this matter. For such a long time, Mr. Zhou, you have been working hard with the scientists of the Academy of Sciences to improve the scientific and technological level of our human beings. The hardships can be imagined. Now that the two most important results have come out, I personally hope that you and our scientists can take a break for a while. There is an old saying in our country Z that we should combine work and rest. You have already prepared the weapons for us, so next, it's up to us. Zhou Yang was slightly stunned. As the president of the Academy of Sciences, he naturally knew how much effort all scientists around the world had made in the whole year since Folkman and his group appeared last year. Thank you for your concern. I will arrange it, Zhou Yang said. After hanging up the call, Li Xianshu also came over, sighed, and said, Mr. Zhou, I support your approach. These Oma people are too arrogant. If you don't give them a little power, they will never know what politeness means. Zhou Yang smiled, looked at the approaching Earth through the porthole, and said, friends come with good wine, jackals come with hunting rifles. We have been through such difficult times. What does it matter now? The future will only get better and better. Soon, Scene received a direct order from the emergency committee. The so-called order must be executed. Until this moment, Scene suddenly remembered that M country is no longer the M country it used to be, but only a vassal of Z country. Z country is the master of the earth. Let the Ministry of Foreign Affairs send someone to convey our opinion. That is, before 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. Let Becky hand over the murderer, otherwise you will bear the consequences. Scene waved his hand and said to his assistant. In the suburbs of New York, a large area was circled, where 18 warships of the Oma people were docked. At the same time, several factories and buildings in this area were acquisitioned as barracks for the Oma people. The people from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Country M immediately sent their opinions to the Oma base. In a building in the center of the camp, the spacious rooms were decorated extremely luxuriously. Becky threw the document delivered by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Country M to the ground and cursed. Assholes, I told them a long time ago that we don't need to abide by their human laws. They actually asked us to hand over the murderer. If we don't, let them go to hell. An adjutant next to him hesitated and said, General, it was Fendel who did something wrong. After all, this is Earth, the territory of humans. We have signed an alliance treaty with them. It is not good to make things too awkward. How about this? According to our laws, try Fendel and the 3 soldiers, and then inform the human side of the results of the trial. This will be regarded as giving them an explanation. No. Becky waved her hand decisively and said, this is not a problem of Fendel at all. It doesn't matter whether Fendel is tried or not. It is to let humans understand who is the real master. The Earth is our home planet, and we, the Oma people, are their human ancestors. This alliance with them is a charity to them. They should kneel down to thank us. I want to let them understand that they don't deserve and are not qualified to judge our people. Chapter 448 Intercepting the Oma warship. The adjutant opened his mouth, but did not persuade him any further. Then General, at 8 o'clock tomorrow, they will come. What should we do? The adjutant asked. Becca's eyes flashed with coldness, and she said, what should we do? I will let them see it. On the other side, Zhou Yang returned to Earth. and summoned the heads of various departments of the Academy of Sciences to convey the most important task for the next period of time. That is to rest. Everyone can rest. As for how long to rest, it depends on the situation. During this period of time, you can reunite with your family, go on a trip to relax, and just keep the communication normal. After arranging everything, Zhou Yang also embarked on the journey home. A few months passed in a flash, and Zhou Yang always felt that he owed too much to his family. At the same time, the next morning in the United States, the FBI director led a group of people to the base of the Oma people. The current FBI director is called Thomas. After arriving at the base, he immediately asked his men to notify the Oma guards and told them the purpose of his group. "Director, will the Oma people hand over the murderer? What if they don't?" the deputy whispered, his face full of worry. Thomas was also in pain. He looked back at the more than 30 armed security guards behind him, and then he felt a sense of security. He said, "What can I do? How do I know what to do? Okay, the president asked us to come, so we will come. Whether the Oma people hand over the people or not is something the president and others should worry about. It has nothing to do with us little characters." This wait lasted for 10 minutes. Just when Thomas was about to send someone to ask again, there was a sudden commotion in the Oma camp in front. The next moment, a U-shaped carrier-based aircraft full of science fiction took off and appeared in front of Thomas and others. In space, this thing is running without any movement, but under atmospheric conditions, the strong winds rolled up by the thrusters are not small. Especially the laser cannon at the front of the carrier-based aircraft. It is even more frightening. What's going on? What are they going to do? Thomas was terrified. Suddenly, a blue light appeared in the laser cannon at the front of the carrier-based aircraft, and with a whoosh, a laser cannon shot out. With a bang, in the huge explosion, Thomas and the entire convoy were blown into the sky. The carrier-based aircraft fired several laser cannons in succession, completely killing Thomas and his party, and then turned away. At this time, in the center of the camp, 18 warships also burst into a loud noise and slowly took off. In the leading warship, Becky sat proudly in her captain's command seat. "General, we have received a communication request from the Human Military Command Center. Do you want to connect?" a combatant asked. Becky waved her hand arrogantly and said, "Ignore them. Go to the moon as planned. I heard that there is a base left by us on the back of the moon. Let's occupy it first." On the Earth, the 18 warships of the Oma people took off, and the military command center was informed of it at the first time. "What's the matter? Contact the Oma people." "Without our permission, why did they take off privately? Did they detect the warships of the Decident civilization? Did our monitoring system detect it?" Wang Mazhao asked with a serious expression. Soon, the relevant information was fed back. No enemy was detected. As for the launch of the Oma civilization warship, the reason was also known. What? They actually used carrier-based aircraft to bomb the FBI director who was looking for the murderer. How many people died? Wang Mazhao's face changed drastically. 37. Hearing this number, Wang Mazhao's eyes were filled with murderous intent. He slapped his palm on the table and said, "Let all warships take off and intercept the Oma warships." At the same time, all military bases enter a wartime state and keep a close eye on the movements of the Oma warships. After giving the order, Wang Mazhao was about to contact his superiors for further instructions. But at this time, the superiors' instructions had already arrived. The head of Country Z connected to the communication. Facing the head of Country Z in the holographic projection, Wang Mazhao and others saluted hurriedly. "I already know what happened. Send out all the warships to intercept the warships of the Oma people. If the Oma people provoke us or attack us first, do not show mercy and kill them. Remember, you can use super weapons. Wang Mazhao, you have to understand that, even if they are allies, they cannot act recklessly and kill us humans at will. Do you understand?" "Understand," Wang Mazhao said loudly. The communication was cut off. Wang Mazhao looked at everyone and said, "Why are you still standing there? Pass on the order and intercept the warships of the Oma people. If the Oma people take the initiative to provoke and attack us, kill them without hesitation." Zhou Yang's home. This time when he went home, Zhou Yang asked someone to buy a ragdoll cat as a gift for Zhao Tong. Zhao Tong is more than 2 years old and walks like a gust of wind. Finding a pet can give him a playmate. When Zhou Yang learned that the Oma warship was launched, he was playing with Zhao Tong and the ragdoll cat. "Sir, for safety reasons, let's evacuate," the security guard said. Zhou Yang thought for a moment and said, "No need. Isn't there an energy shield?" "It's already activated." Behind Zhou Yang's villa, there is a medium-sized energy shield device that can be activated at any time for defense. The security guard hesitated for a moment and said, "Sir, although we have an energy shield, what if the energy shield is breached?" Zhou Yang said, "Okay, I feel that the underground shelter may not be safe with an energy shield. Go and bring my parents here." The security guard had to go. Chen Royan looked over her head at the light blue energy shield covering the entire villa, frowned and said, "Is there going to be another war?" Zhou Yang hummed and said, "But this time, it shouldn't be a big problem. You play with Tong Tong. I'll go to the study." When he arrived at the study, Zhou Yang immediately asked Fuxi to show the relevant situation. "Sir, in the lunar orbit, our warships intercepted the warships of the Oma people, and now the two sides are in a standoff." Zhou Yang nodded and asked, "What orders did the command center give?" Fuxi said, "The command center has received the highest instructions to intercept the Oma warships. If the Oma warships provoke or counterattack, super weapons will be used to destroy the other side." Zhou Yang's eyes flashed with a fierce light, and he nodded and said, "Yes, that's right. If you kill our people, you will have to pay the price." In the deep space, near the lunar orbit, 18 Oma warships and 18 human warships confronted each other thousands of kilometers apart. "General, do you want to receive the communication request from the military command center?" Becky was full of anger, but gritted his teeth and said, "Receive it. I want to see what they have to say. They are so brave that they dare to intercept our warships. Do they want to go to war with us?" Chapter 449 Plastic Brotherhood. In the battleship, a holographic projection projected a full-length image of Wang Muzhao. "General Becky," Wang Muzhao said in a deep voice, and his voice was automatically translated into the language of the Oma people by the intelligent program. Becky sat upright on her command seat, pointing out the porthole at the 18 human warships, and questioned, "Wang Muzhao, what do you humans mean? Why do you want to stop us? Are you going to go to war with us? I tell you, let your fleet withdraw now, otherwise all the consequences will be borne by you." Wang Muzhao's face remained unchanged, and he said in a deep voice, "Becky, you asked me what I meant, and I also want to ask you, what do you mean, condoning your soldiers and killing civilians? Not long ago, you dispatched carrier-based aircraft to shoot and kill the FBI director of Country M and his entourage, a total of 37 people. Do you want to provoke a war? Ha ha ha." Becky laughed loudly, pointing at Wang Muzhao, and said to the adjutant, "Listen to what this idiot is saying. He actually said we want to provoke a war. Haha, it really makes me laugh to death. Humans, you are so brave." Becky slapped the armrest of the chair hard and shouted. Wang Muzhao's face was as hen. The adjutant next to Becky said hurriedly, "Minister Wang, please calm down. There are many conflicts and misunderstandings here, but there is no need to develop to the point of war. After all, we are allies." "Ally?" Wang Muzhao snorted coldly and said, "Wantlessly killing our civilians, attacking our government workers at will, trampling and ignoring our laws and sovereignty. Is this what you call an ally? I'll say it one last time. Hand over the murderer and let us try him. Otherwise, I will not guarantee to use war to uphold the dignity of our human race." The adjutant's face changed drastically, and when he was about to speak, he was pulled behind him by Becky. Becky stood up, his face grim. He pointed at Wang Muzhao and said sinisterly, "Okay, damn humans, we Omas are willing to form an alliance with you and help you resist the dissidents, but you are not grateful and even want to go to war with us. Then I will let you understand what kind of attitude you should use to deal with the strong in the universe." After that, Becky pointed to a combatant on the bridge and said, "All warships' main guns are ready. Fire. Destroy all human warships. Let them know what the consequences of offending our Oma civilization will be." The adjutant was very anxious and hurriedly persuaded, "General, should we report to the executive yuan?" "What is there to report? Those good-for-nothings in the executive yuan, if it weren't for them, would we Omas have been constantly defeated in the war with the dissidents? They are just a group of pigs who don't know how to fight at all." I really don't know how these pigs came up with the idea of forming an alliance with humans. In my opinion, we should immediately dispatch warships to capture the Earth and turn all humans into slaves to fight for us. The adjutant opened his mouth wide. He knew that Becky was a hardliner in the upper echelons of the Oma civilization government, but he didn't expect him to be so tough. As the war with the Decidine civilization evolved into a full-scale war, these hardliners in the army began to emerge and gain the upper hand. They even thought that the emperor was a compromiser and wondered if he was planning a coup or something. War and coup are almost engraved in the blood of the Oma people. After tens of thousands of years, there has been no change. Wan Muzhao's expression was as cold as an iceberg. He slowly said, "Don't say I didn't warn you. In this case, let's fight." After that, he directly cut off the communication. On the number 1 ship, Chen Fengqiao received Wan Muzhao's order at the first time. Attack. Chen Fengqiao's face changed slightly, and he sneered. "What an alliance. It's just a fake brotherhood. How long has it been since we formed an alliance?" Tang Ling beside him sighed and said, "Outsiders are really unreliable." "That's right. You have to be strong yourself to forge iron. There are not so many good friends who are willing to help you sincerely. You have to rely on yourself for everything." Chen Fengqiao immediately ordered, "Start the super weapon. Launch at half power. Target enemy fleet. Let other warships cover us." The order was issued, and the super weapon began to buffer. It was not launched at full power. Full power would take 120 seconds, which was too long, and multiple rounds of attacks had already been carried out. With the power of the super weapon, half power is already very strong. At the same time, other human warships also received orders one after another, and the warships began to move towards the number 1 warship. Inside the warships, the alarm sounded loudly, and all combat personnel were ready. On the opposite side, the main guns of the 18 ships also began to accumulate energy and prepare to fire. This is a progressive super laser cannon, which uses amplification equipment to enhance the power of the laser cannon. The firing process is complicated, and the startup time is long. Humans don't know how many seconds it takes. At this time, the secondary guns of the Oma warships have begun to fire. Each warship has 260 secondary guns. In just a few seconds, countless laser cannons shot out, illuminating the entire space. At almost the same time, the warships on the human side also fired laser cannons. The firepower is even stronger. And not only the human warships, but also the laser cannon bases on the moon and the earth are firing at the same time. In an instant, tens of thousands of laser beams hit the energy shield of the Oma warships fiercely. The energy shield fluctuated, and the interior of the warship also shook. Becky grabbed the armrest of the seat tightly, and became even more angry. She shouted, "They actually dared to attack us, bastards. Damn humans, they are so brave. Fire, all weapon systems are fired. Concentrate the 18 main guns, and bombard their warships for me." In space, the warships of both sides began to shoot at each other. After just 30 seconds, the main gun of the Oma warship was buffered, and a thick laser beam shot out from the bottom of the U-shaped warship. On the U-shaped arms, the level-by-level amplification system exerted pressure and amplification on the laser beam like a rhythmic light. In the end, a very thick laser beam shot out, a total of 18 beams, converging into a torrent, bombarding the number 2 warship on the front of the human side. Boom. It was like a small sun appeared, and the dazzling light filled the entire space. There was a moment of stalemate, and with a bang, the energy shield of the number 2 warship was broken. The remaining laser beams hit the middle section of the second ship fiercely. The hard and heavy armor of the battleship could not withstand this powerful attack, and began to melt, and soon a gap with a diameter of nearly 100 meters was melted. This position is the rest cabin for some combatants in the middle section of the battleship. At this time, everyone is at the combat post, so it is empty. The moment the battleship was blown up, the sharp negative pressure inside the battleship seemed to have blown up a hurricane, and everything was swept out of the gap. However, the battleship's intelligence system has activated the airtight cabin at the first time. Inside the battleship, almost every door can be controlled and closed individually, just like the isolation cabin of a large ship, which can instantly close the surrounding doors to avoid causing greater damage. Chapter 450, 1 Cannon, 7 Explosions. Earth Military Command Center. Ship number 2 is damaged. The cabin is under negative pressure, the airtight cabin has been closed, and no casualties have been found for the time being. The battlefield images transmitted back in real time show that after ship number 2 was damaged, it immediately began to retreat, and the warships on the left and right immediately made up for it and helped defend. However, in this instant, a large number of laser beams bombarded ship number 2. However, ordinary laser cannons cannot penetrate the thick armor of warships, so the problem is not big. Wang Muzhao's expression was solemn. The main gun of the Omna warship was so powerful that it exceeded his imagination. It is no exaggeration to say that it felt a bit like a super weapon. Wait a little longer. Wang Muzhao whispered in his heart. The super weapon of ship number 1 was also in the buffer and would be launched soon. In the Omna warship, Becky excitedly waved his fist and said, "These damn humans, do you know how powerful we are?" Concentrating the power of the main gun, although it did not kill the human warship with one shot, it was able to injure it. This result was already very good, indicating that humans had no way to defend against the attack of the Omna warship. Continue. General, the enemy has an astonishing number of weapons, more than twice ours. Our energy shield is rapidly decreasing. In 40 seconds at most, the energy shield of the sun ship under concentrated fire will be broken. A combatant reminded. Becky waved her hand and didn't care at all. Just like the Decidin civilization has stronger energy shield technology, the Oma civilization is good at attacking weapons technology, and the energy shield technology can only be regarded as average, so the defense efficiency is much lower. Let the sun ship return. All warships gather towards me. Any warship whose energy shield reaches the warning line, immediately start a space jump under the cover of other warships and leave, and return to the battle after recharging. A warship left alone will be targeted by the enemy, and sometimes there is no time to start a space jump to escape. It is a very common tactic in space warfare to cluster warships like this and cover each other. These humans don't have the technology to jump through space at all. We can come and go at ease without any losses, but they can't. We can damage their warships with a round of main gun salvos. Over time, their warships will be completely destroyed one by us. At that time, I wonder how they can resist us. Becca's eyes flashed with excitement. Humans are too vulnerable. 18 warships began to approach Becca's main ship. In a flash, another 30 seconds passed, and the second round of main guns were fully charged. Fire! Becky shouted excitedly. In the number 1 ship, after a long 60 seconds, the super weapon was finally fully charged at half power. Fire! Almost at the same time, Chen Finkyo also roared and issued an order. Boom. At the front of the number 1 ship, an extremely thick laser beam appeared and shot out. Almost at the same time, the 18 Oma warships also fired their main guns at the same time. 18 thick laser beams, 5 or 6 of which collided with the laser beam of the super weapon in an instant. Dazzling light filled the entire space. These 5 or 6 laser beams were like a mantis trying to stop a car. They were instantly evaporated. However, the laser beams of the super weapon had almost no consumption and instantly hit the clustered Oma warships. First, the energy shield covering the Oma warship was like glass, which collapsed at the touch. Then the thick laser beam shot in from the top of the warship and went straight through the tail. On the same straight line, at least 7 Oma warships were penetrated by this huge laser beam. Some were penetrated from head to tail, and some were pierced through the tail. However, even if only a small part was penetrated, it caused a huge explosion. Moreover, in space, any damage will cause a series of chain reactions. In space, 7 Oma warships all exploded, and the flames mixed with the fragments of the warships rushed out indiscriminately. The energy shields of the surrounding 11 Oma warships were also trembling under this impact. The laser beam fired by the main gun of the Oma warship bombarded the number 6 warship. Because it was offset several times, the energy shield of the number 6 warship trembled fiercely, but it still resisted tenaciously. So powerful. Is this a super weapon? It's too powerful. This scene was witnessed by the captains of the 18 warships, and everyone was shocked. Many people knew the existence of super weapons, and that the number 1 warship was equipped with super weapons, but it was only tested yesterday, so no one knew how powerful it was. Before, everyone thought that the main gun of the Oma warship was comparable to a super weapon, but now it is found that compared with a real super weapon, the main gun of the Oma warship is just a child playing house. The Oma warship was also shocked by the huge laser beam. Becky was in the main ship. Fortunately, his main ship was not in the attack line of the laser beam, so it was spared. But the amazing power of that shot, that penetrated 7 warships, still shocked Becky's hair and trembled all over. Super weapons, they are super weapons. Becky screamed. How can humans have super weapons? Why do they have super weapons? Becky screamed, but got no answer. Becky was too impressed by super weapons, because the Decidine civilization had super weapons, and not just one set. In the Total War, the reason why the Oma civilization was defeated all the way was largely because of this super weapon. But it was normal for the Decidine civilization to have super weapons, because they had a larger territory and stronger strength. But humans, a small country with backward technology, actually had super weapons. Becky felt unreal for a moment, as if she was dreaming. "General." The adjutant's hurried shouting woke Becky up. The adjutant said in a hurry, "General, humans have super weapons. We made a mistake. Now is not the time to be surprised and sad. We should retreat. Super weapons can't be resisted at all, so the only way is to retreat." "Yes, retreat. Retreat quickly. They don't have space jump technology. They can't catch up with us." Becky came to his senses and quickly ordered to start the space jump. If he didn't leave, he would have to stay here. All the warships received the order and started to activate the space jump device. But the human attack was not over. Just 15 seconds later, a thick laser beam was shot out from the top of the number 1 ship again, accurately hitting an Oma warship. The energy shield of this Oma warship was already approaching the warning line. This laser beam, even if it was only 1/8 the power of a super weapon, was not something it could withstand. The energy shield was instantly broken, and the laser beam penetrated the warship at the same time. After penetrating the warship, the laser beam had not completely disappeared, and it bombarded an Oma warship behind it, directly breaking the energy shield. At the same time as the energy shield was broken, tens of thousands of laser beams followed and bombarded the warship. Boom. The 2 Oma warships turned into wreckage. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.